I have to say it, this is for educational purposes only. I am not selling anything. I am not making commission from anything. This is all curriculum that I'm using for my 4 kids, or curriculum that we've tried in the past that you'll see me showing off. Not selling anything, not promoting anything, no commission, no nothing. This is for educational purposes only. Just sharing the curriculum that we've used, talking about scheduling, which as a matter of fact, let me pull out my schedule. Again, the schedule is free. I am not making any money off of that. This is all for educational purposes only. You're going to hear me say that a million times because TikTok Live has been like kind of, I don't know, booting me or restricting me because it thinks I'm trying to sell these curriculums. I'm not selling these curriculums. These are all curriculums that we use in our homeschool, not selling anything. Yes, exactly. All educational. So you'll hear me, I even had to put it on the sticker up there. Educational purposes only, not selling anything, just answering your questions about homeschooling. Oh my goodness, all my bins are like messed up from our last live. I also do have the states up. All the homeschool state laws are up on my laptop, so we have that available as long as my laptop stays alive. Yeah, I had to put it on there. It's so frustrating. Every once in a while, I'll get flagged for like, oh, promotional content from, like, if I show a curriculum book up for too long, they just assume that I'm trying to sell something, but I'm not. It's educational purposes only. You'll hear me say it a million times. This is the learning to read. Yep, so the little light units, like when you see my videos of us doing our curriculum and you see us working in these little booklets, this is the learning to read program. And it's a little confusing because learning to read is technically the first half of the first grade with Christian Light Education. They do have a kindergarten program too that we've used in the past. This is the one, you'll see this in my videos too, the kindergarten 1 and 2 program. We finish that and then we move into the learning to read program. And another thing that I learned is, like, whenever I'm talking about any of these curriculums to like I can't show the barcodes. I had to ask ChatGPT, like, why do my lives keep getting restricted? I'm not selling anything, I'm not promoting anything. And ChatGPT was the one who was like, oh, make sure you're not showing any barcodes or anything while you're talking about curriculum. Exactly. My son is struggling so much to read. We switched from The Good and the Beautiful to Logic of English. We also switched from The Good and the Beautiful. We switched to Christian Light Education, though. I have not used Logic of English, but if Logic of English has a placement test available, I would recommend going and doing that placement test if you haven't already, because a lot of times when you come from The Good and the Beautiful, you might think your kid is on 2nd grade level or 1st grade level or whatever, but then you'll quickly realize that they're actually behind. That's what happened to us. So we are actually an entire grade level behind in math, and I think that's because we did that year of The Good and the Beautiful, and it was just kind of like a waste. A good history curriculum. So for us, we started the 5 in a row. So this is 5 in a row curriculum. This is like a Charlotte Mason style where you read a storybook and then there's little activities to go along with the storybook, and there's a lot of history lessons in here. So this has kind of been being used as our history curriculum. I don't really outright use a history curriculum, if I'm being completely honest with you. I have heard good things about a history curriculum called Mystery of History. Haven't used it personally, but I've heard good things. We used to have one called Story of the World that we used that was pretty cool, but I don't really have any good history recommendations. I've just been using that 5 in a row curriculum as to kind of infusing history. Like Thanksgiving, for example. This 5 in a row curriculum, one of the books that we read was called Cranberry Thanksgiving. So we read the story together, and then there's like little history lessons involved that we talked about the history of Thanksgiving and watched the Mayflower movie and all that. Do I feel like history is necessary at 7 and 9? Like, I have a 5 and an 8-year-old, and I just try to infuse history into everything we do, if that makes sense. So I'm not sitting down and, okay, today's history. We're just kind of infusing it in everything we do. Like I said, we just had Thanksgiving, so we did, we even did the history of the Macy's Day Parade. I don't know, I've got the book somewhere. We learned all about the history of the Macy's Day Parade. We talked about, the Pilgrims, the Native Americans, and that was our history lesson for the week. So in my personal opinion, if you think about public school, it's not like they're getting a whole block of time out just for history. We, as public school teachers, were also infusing history into our reading lessons. We didn't have a separate block of the day for history. So I'm kind of going with that same idea as a homeschooling family. I know so many comments come through so fast and I miss them. So honestly, just keep sending them. School's been hard right now with the holidays. Oh my gosh, we're so sick. Like, you'll hear me during this live. I'm still hacking up a lung. It has been 3 weeks. My kids are still coughing. The baby, she's going to be a year old this week. So she can't even say baby anymore. Her cough has lasted like 4 weeks. And I keep asking myself, like, do I need to take her to the doctor? How do I know if this is not turning into pneumonia? But none of us have gotten fevers. We just have this awful cough that keeps lingering. So I'm kind of just letting it run its course. But you'll hear, you can hear it in my throat right now. Yes, Autumn, have you used Horizons Math? Yes, we did Horizons Math. I just actually finished the Horizons Math kindergarten with my kindergartner, and it was pretty good. I'm so used to Christian Light Education math, which you'll see, like, these light units with Christian Light Education, they're heavy duty. It's like 4 pages of math a day. This is the 2nd grade level. But with Horizons, it was only like a page or 2, and so it was kind of throwing me off because I felt like we weren't doing enough. Realistically, it probably was enough, but I'm just so stuck on what we've been doing with Christian Light Education that we did not end up continuing with Horizons Math, but it is one that I still recommend. I think it's a great program. It's just really short lessons, and you're kind of left wondering, like, did we do enough? Do we need to do more? That's kind of the feeling that I got. Have you ever used Time for Learning? Yes, we did use Time for Learning for several months, actually, when we were moving to this new house. I do have some videos on it. I really, really liked it. That is probably the program that we will end up switching to for maybe middle school when we go. I do want to move to an online curriculum for middle and high school. Time for Learning is a good contender. There's another, Mia Academy. I know I get a lot of questions about Mia Academy. We did use Mia Academy for a little while as well. I like Time for Learning better. My kids liked Mia Academy better, but I think they liked Mia Academy because it was a little more engaging and there was a social aspect to it. Like, they got to, chat with friends, and Time for Learning, you don't really get that. Handwriting, we use what's infused in the Christian Light Education. So with Christian Light Language Arts, and I have tons of videos on my page showing this, the handwriting is actually included. So I'll actually show you the lesson that we did today. Actually, I'll show you yesterday's. Every day we're doing handwriting. So she's practicing her letters. Now, this is the 1st grade program, but even the 2nd grade program that my 8-year-old is doing, it's handwriting practice with cursive. But this is the kindergarten level, right? They give them those lines for handwriting, and every single day there's a handwriting activity. With my 2nd grader, let me show you the difference because I really want you to see the 2nd grade, if I can find it. Hold on. I don't know where it is right now, but the 2nd grade language arts for Christian Light Education is very, very heavy on the cursive handwriting. So if you want your kid to learn cursive, you don't necessarily have to use a separate curriculum. We're just kind of doing what's in the Christian Light. I do have the states up. Yeah, so the map, I know everybody sees this map. This is the hslda.org map of your homeschool laws. And it's color-coded based on how stringent your laws are. So if you are a green state, you have a lot of homeschooling freedom. In some of these green states, you do not even have to submit a letter saying that you're homeschooling. You can just do it. Then we have our red states up in the Northeast. They're a little more strict. It does not mean that you can't homeschool. So some people will look at this map and they're like, oh my gosh, I live in a red state, New York, Pennsylvania. That means I can't homeschool. That's not what that means. You just click on your state. It'll pull up your laws. This is a free website, hslda.org. I will tell you though, I also recommend you actually go to your state Department of Education website, find their homeschool tab, and compare the laws. Now, this is a website developed by a team of lawyers. I would hope that they're accurate, but sometimes I will see where a state passes a law and it hasn't been updated very quickly on the HSLDA website. So keep that in mind. You can look up your state laws here, but then also go to your state Department of Education website and compare. Make sure that everything is standard across the board. Okay, the faith-based recommendation specs, like I said, we use Christian Light Education. It's a Christian-based curriculum. All AOP curriculums are Christian-based as well. There's a lot of Christian curriculums out there. As a matter of fact, if you're a secular family and you don't want a religious homeschooling curriculum, it's actually harder to find good secular options than there are Christian options. Abeka, A-B-E-K-A, is a really good one. Also, if you are just coming into this live, let me just tell you that I have to keep announcing over and over that this is for educational purposes only. I am not selling anything. I don't make commission on anything. I'm just literally showing you curriculum that we have used, that we're currently using. I save all of the curriculum. Like The Good and the Beautiful, as much as I talk bad about this curriculum, I saved it because I want to be able to go back. I want to show you guys, like, you know, what we did with it, why I have a problem with it. And so I don't get rid of anything. But again, I have to keep saying it's for educational purposes only, not selling anything. I don't make commission, nothing. Nothing. Okay, I appreciate you sharing your knowledge. Thank you, Sammy. It's easier to do it online, honestly, because I cannot keep up with like the messages, and TikTok is so bad about showing me my messages anyway. So if anybody's messaging me on TikTok, it usually just goes to like a request folder, and I don't even get it. Okay, what did I use before this one? That was The Good and the Beautiful. So what you saw here is The Good and the Beautiful. The cover's different because this is the older edition. We switched from The Good and the Beautiful, and we have tried a lot of curriculums. Abeka, Time for Learning, Horizons, Life Pack. Christian Light is the one we really stuck with, Christian Light Education, and now we're doing, we've added in 5 in a row. So you'll see a bunch of videos of mine. This is the 5 in a row, Charlotte Mason style, where you read a storybook together. Like last week we did the Thanksgiving book. So we read our Thanksgiving book together, and then there's activities to go along with that story for the week. So free curriculum options, there are free curriculum options out there. If you want a Christian-based free one, it's called Easy Peasy All-in-One. You just have to print everything out yourself. It's not like you get a free book sent to you. You have to still print everything, but it is free. And then there are some other options like where you can get free printable worksheets. TeachersPayTeachers.com is a good resource where you can get free worksheets and things like that. But it's just a matter of knowing whether or not the worksheets that you're doing with your kids are actually like adhering to your state standards if you're in a state that requires those standards. Not every state does. What do you use for Bible and science? So for Bible, we are using Life Pack. So it looks like this, Life Pack Bible. And this is by AOP. This is the same company that does Horizons and Online Monarch. So this is our Bible curriculum. I'm not consistent with this, if I'm being honest with you. Like I kind of have been using this as more of a supplement. But what I like about Life Pack Bible curriculum is that I can kind of do it family style, like where I'm reading, it has really good little reading passages and stuff. And then science, I have been through the ringer with science curriculums, and we've ultimately just decided on the 5 in a row to cover our science. So like we read a story about Thanksgiving, and then part of our science activity that day was it was like a recipe. That was our science lesson. And then last week we did a baking soda science experiment. It's kind of all infused in there. So I haven't really invested in like a full science curriculum. If I were to switch from The Good and the Beautiful to Christian Light Education, how will I know if there is an overlap? Okay, so Monica or anybody that's considering switching to Christian Light Education, especially if you're coming from The Good and the Beautiful, like we did, excuse me, there it is. I recommend taking their placement test on their website. They do have placement tests. They're free. Have your kid take them. And let's say you've got a 3rd grader and you just finished 3rd grade Good and the Beautiful. More than likely when you switch to Christian Light, you're going to have to back them up to 2nd grade. Not only do I feel like the Good and the Beautiful is not like the best academically, but Christian Light ends up like this is a pretty advanced curriculum once they get into those 3rd, 4th, 5th grade levels. So don't freak out if you have to back them up a level. It's not a big deal. Back them up. That's what we did. And you'll eventually catch up. Yes, it seems super thorough. Yes. If you're talking about Christian Light, that's what's happening with us. Like my 1st grader, and she's only 5, she's doing the same thing. So this is the level 1 math for Christian Light, and see the coins, they're counting money. By the end of the level 1, they're like fully telling time. There's, they have the place value too. So your 10s and your 1s, lots of addition and subtraction memorization, which is annoying. Like my kids are like, ugh, why do I have to keep doing all these addition and subtraction facts? But it really pays off when they start getting into those bigger numbers. Which subjects do you prioritize for your 1st grader? Language arts, aka reading. With Christian Light Education, language arts and reading kind of go together for the 1st grade and the beginning of 1st grade, and math. Those are what I call our core subjects, language arts and math. And I know everybody's thinking, oh my gosh, what about reading? Well, that's where we do our 5 in a row, where we read the story together 5 days a week. We do an activity to go along with that story. And Christian Light Education, reading and language arts, the language arts has a lot of reading included in it. So we've dropped the reading. Like, we're not doing Christian Light Education reading anymore. 5 in a row has taken the place of that, and we stuck with the Christian Light Education language arts, which I cannot find my language arts light units. I'm trying to keep up with these comments. You are the reason I took the jump this year in Christian Light Education. I'm telling you guys, it is, like I said, I am not affiliated with them. I am not selling anything by them. I just genuinely love this curriculum. This is an example of the test. So this is my first graders learning to read. This is her second test. And you rip it out of the middle of their book. It's 2 pages and then a back. And it's all phonics, right? Looking at the picture, that's a fork. What does it start with? F. And they only quiz them and test them on letter sounds that we've practiced up to this point. So that was one problem that I had with The Good and the Beautiful, was I felt like they were throwing things at them that they didn't explicitly teach. Whereas with Christian Light, like, they will not even include a word in the lesson if it's not using letters that they've already learned, if that makes sense. Have you ever used Logic of English? I have not. I did look into it, and the only thing that turned me off about Logic of English was that it had so many moving parts. So like letter tiles and little manipulative type things for reading, which is good if you have a hands-on kinesthetic learner. I feel like less is more, okay? And then, oh, you know what too? That's another thing. Like with this is first grade with Christian Light. There's not like cute games and stuff like you get with The Good and the Beautiful. That's one downside. My kids prefer that though. Like, they don't really want the cute fluffy games. They're kind of like me. Let's just get right to the point. However, today our lesson, which I have a video coming on it, I did take a video. Today we used little index cards. I just made them real quick on index cards, put our sight words on there, and we did a little game that you'll see the video of. So they do have ideas for games, but you make them yourself. I have not, Panda. She's asking, have you ever tried Right Start Math? That is another one that we also looked into, but kind of like Logic of English, Right Start Math has a lot of components. Like when you order Right Start Math, the box, you can look, people post their videos on here all the time. The box of manipulatives that you get with it is massive, and it's very overwhelming. It looks like something I had when I was a teacher in the classroom for 30 kids, but it's just for your one kid. But again, if you've got a hands-on kinesthetic learner, Right Start Math is really, really good. It uses like the abacus, it uses little scales and weights and things. Very visual, very hands-on, but a lot of components to go along with that one. Have you tried Acellus online? My 5th grader wants to switch to online for 6th grade. So that is what we plan to do as well. We're going to switch to online for middle school more than likely. Acellus, the problem with Acellus is that they upped their prices, and it's like crazy expensive, at least for me. For me, I thought their pricing was insane. But you have to keep in mind that Acellus Academy online homeschool curriculum is accredited. Accredited is that fancy term that means the program has been looked over with a fine-tooth comb, and they'll provide you a diploma at the end of your 12th grade year if you're using an accredited program. If you don't want to pay for the Acellus, they have another option called Power Homeschool, which is, it's the same program, but it's not accredited, meaning you have to order your own diploma and transcripts and stuff at the end of the year. That might be one we end up looking into. I also really like Time for Learning. Time for Learning is not an accredited online program, meaning you are going to have to get your diploma, your transcripts, and do all that on your own, which is fine. You do not have to use an accredited program. Just makes life easier. Power is the same price now. Kimberly, is that what you just said? I can't imagine that they would have a non-accredited program the same price as accredited. That seems silly. Courtney, I love Abeka. If we could afford Abeka, we would be using it right now. And by the way, we did use Abeka for a full year because I literally won a year of Abeka at a homeschool convention. Used it for a year, loved it, couldn't afford it anymore, switched to Christian Light Education, and the teaching in Christian Light Education is almost identical for the phonics as Abeka, but it's just cheaper. So that's why we're using this. But Christian Light is very similar to Abeka in terms of how they teach their phonics. Super solid program. If you're not heavily into the Bible, religion, Christianity, then you might want to steer away from both of those. They're both pretty heavy with that, but I thought it was a great program. Alicia, do you do anything to accredit now? So my kids are all still in elementary, so I don't even keep grades. Like you'll see here, when they take a test with Christian Light, I do put their grade on it. Okay, she got a 98%. And then on the back of the Light unit, on the older versions, they had a little spot to record their grade. I do keep all of their tests in their Light unit, so if anybody wanted to see their progress, I have it. But I'm not doing report cards. I'm not doing anything like that yet. Once they get probably into 8th grade, where they start taking classes like pre-algebra, algebra classes that actually count towards a transcript, then I will start tracking them either on my own online transcript, there's online generators you can use, or switch to an accredited program that does the whole thing for you. Does North Carolina require, okay, I just moved to North Carolina, and no, you do not have to provide any testing up front to prove placement, but you are supposed to do state testing at the end of each year here in North Carolina. Now, here's what's weird. According to these homeschool moms around me, which actually I should just look it up right now, the state laws for North Carolina, they're saying that you just take the assessment, but you don't ever submit it to anyone. You only have to have it on file if someone were to come knock on your door and ask. So I'm going to show you here. I don't know if you can see this. I'm kind of backwards in the camera. North Carolina is a dark blue state. Dark blue is not the best, right? Red means you have a lot of stuff you got to do for your homeschool. Dark blue is the next worst one in terms of what you have to do. If you're a green state, you're kind of in luck. You don't have to do a lot. Light blue, Florida's light blue. We had it pretty easy in Florida. But let's see North Carolina, because like I said, word around here is that you just take the test, but you just keep it on file. So North Carolina, state mandated assessment requirements, yes. And when we click on that, and this is what's so cool. This is all free, guys. hslda.org. Free. I wish I had a way, I don't know, I can't put it in the chat right now, but you can just click on your state and look through this. You can pay for like a subscription thing, but I don't. I just use the free version. Okay, so North Carolina, you have to submit your notice of intent, no big deal. The teacher in the home must have a high school diploma or equivalent. You have to homeschool for at least 9 months a year, which for us, we homeschool year round, so it doesn't matter. This is the other weird thing. North Carolina, you have to keep attendance records. So I don't know. We homeschool every day of the year except for like weekends and holidays, so I guess that's fine. Immunization records. Okay, look at this. North Carolina, administer an annual standardized test. At least once during every school year, you must test your child using a nationally standardized test. The test you choose must blah, 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 blah. Okay, listen to this. For 1 year after the testing, your child's test scores must be kept available, quote, available at the principal office of your homeschool, which is right here. This is my principal's office, I guess. At all reasonable hours for annual inspection. So these moms are right. Here in North Carolina, we just take the assessment, we keep the test scores on record, which the irony of that now is that you can tell these laws were written a long time ago. Testing is all done online now. So I could just pull up my email and here's my homeschool test scores, but it's only if they want to see them. Isn't that so weird? Oh my gosh, and then listen to this. Although the Department of North Carolina has attempted to perform home visits under this provision, the law gives its officials no right to enter the homes or inspect any records besides test scores. So they can't come in and start looking through my kids' notebooks and whatnot. They just have to, I can only show them the test scores. Anyways, my North Carolina people, hope that helps. That's so crazy. It's so funny. You'd think I would have like read into that before we moved. But a lot of the moms around here, they kind of tell me the deal. We are in New York. It's truly just sending in documents. So Hannah, I love that you said that because obviously on the map, New York is a red state, not politically, right? We're talking homeschool laws here. And so many people that live in those red states are terrified to homeschool because they think they have to do so much. But like you just said, it's not as bad as it seems. Even if it's a red state, they only mark it red because it just means there's a lot of things you got to kind of check off, right? But it doesn't mean you can't do it. You have taught me so much, a big influence. Oh, Jess, thank you. I am only in my 4th year of this too. Like I'm still learning as I go. I learned so much from other moms on here and in real life, not just TikTok. I have never lived in Michigan, no. But Michigan is a green state on the map, which is a good thing, right? So again, you just kind of like hover over the state here. If it's green, Now, don't get confused. Like, just because you're in a green state doesn't mean you don't have any laws at all. Just means you have less that you need to do. I am lost on curriculum. Yeah, Sophia, honestly, with curriculum, if you're in a state where you have a lot of freedom with what you're teaching, then the curriculum part, it's so stressful because there's so many options out there, but it's also the fun part because you can pick and choose like look at behind me. These bins, these are all curriculums that we've used either currently or in the past, because if it's not working, you can just switch it up. Whereas if they're in school, you know, schools, they usually adopt curriculums for about 5 years. So us teachers, we vote. They say that we vote. I don't know if our vote really counts. And then that curriculum, your kid is stuck with that for 5 years. So it doesn't matter if it works for them or not. When you homeschool, you can choose the curriculum. You don't have to, you know, stick with it for 5 years. So even though choosing curriculum is so overwhelming in the beginning, the good thing is you kind of trial and error. The downside to trial and error is that you spend the money. But if you're in a state like Florida, where there's homeschool scholarships available and whatnot, then you don't have to worry about that as much. And look into your state scholarships. So I know Arizona and Florida have kind of similar programs, but other states, North Carolina has programs for homeschoolers if your child is diagnosed with any sort of disability. Not as flexible as the Florida scholarship. That thing is a godsend. But some states have different things. Both my kids had the Step Up. Yeah, that Step Up is incredible. We were on the Step Up PEP program in Florida, and I miss that. So say if a family member travels internationally full-time, what do they do to keep the homeschooling valid? So I actually do homeschool evaluations for families that are in that exact situation. You're going to go by whatever state you are considered a resident of. So for example, if you live in Florida, but you travel internationally, but Florida is considered home base, you're going to follow the homeschool laws for the state of residency. So my Florida homeschooling people, if you need homeschool evaluations, because that is the law in Florida, if you're not getting a scholarship, you need to do the evaluations yearly. We just sit down, we meet, it's usually about 30 minutes to an hour. Actually, I shouldn't say that, 20 minutes to 30 minutes really, but if you're international, you would just submit the evaluation to your state like normal. That's for Florida people. But same goes if you're a resident of another state. Hi, Mommy. Hi, Iris. That's my daughter. I'm on my second year of homeschooling. I feel like the second year was cool because the first year is so stressful and you're trying to figure everything out and you feel like you're just like, you know, living each day, like you're going day by day. And then by year 2, year 3, I'm in year 4 right now and I finally feel like we've got a good thing. We've changed our schedule a million times, but we're finally finding like a groove. And my kids are getting older so they can work independently and I don't, for the most part, work more independently. Yeah, year 1, I know. Year 1 is rough. Were your kids ever in public school? Nope. Nope. And I will say we used to put our kids in VPK, which is voluntary pre-kindergarten in the state of Florida, and that was through our church. They would go there at age 4 for a year. We even stopped doing that, which is why I have a 5-year-old doing a 1st grade curriculum because I started her early because I was able to do that. I didn't have to wait for the state to tell me that she was allowed to start school. I'm homeschooling my 3rd grader, but got nothing, just whatever I find to print. So, depending on your state, that is perfectly acceptable. Like if you are in a state that says you can use whatever curriculum you want or whatever worksheets you want, as long as you're adhering to the state standards, you can keep doing that. You can literally just wake up in the morning and print out a worksheet every single morning from wherever. What I recommend doing though is going to your state, the Department of Education website. So Florida, it's FLDOE, Florida Department of Education, and looking up the state standards. So if your kid's in 3rd grade, you would type in 3rd grade state standards for math in the state of Florida. And then whatever worksheets you're choosing for that day, just try to align them with the standards that 3rd graders should be knowing in your state, if that makes sense. So you do not have to go out and buy like, you know, a full-blown curriculum if you're in a state that allows you to just kind of pick and choose like that. Oh, 11th grade. So decided to start homeschooling for my kid in 11th grade. We're both lost. For high school, I would recommend online, like online. And 11th grade, since you're so close to graduation anyways, if you can get in with an accredited program, it's more expensive and it's not necessary, but it will be really helpful because they'll do the transcripts, they'll do the diploma for you, and that'll just be one less thing on your plate since your kid is older. And I know somebody was asking about the schedule. This is my schedule on Canva, and this is, you could go download this right now. It's totally free. And this was so helpful when I was starting out. Like I would just, Monday through Friday at the top, I would list what our subjects were each day, and then I would just kind of hand write what the specific lesson was. And I would just walk around the house with this schedule all day. Honestly, now I'm getting to a point where I don't even need that. Like we just sit down, I open up my teacher's guide. It tells me exactly what to say, what to teach, what page we're on, and then we just move through that daily. But the schedule was really helpful when we were first starting out. My dog, oh, the comments are going so fast. I'm so sorry. Just keep posting them if I'm missing them because they're just going so fast. I moved my second grader back to first grade for some subjects. Megan, that is exactly what we did. So my second grader is supposed to be, when my second grader was supposed to be in second grade math, I actually backed her up and we did an entire year of first grade math. And this is the level 1 math that we were using. And we did an entire year of first grade math all over again. Right? And we went back to the basics. That's what you'll hear me say a lot, like fill in the gaps, fill in the gaps, fill in the gaps. It's better to go back and fill in the gaps than to just stick them in the grade level that you think they're in and they're just going to keep falling further and further behind. What do assessments look like in green states? Okay, so it's going to be different. So just because your state is green on here does not mean that it's going to be the same as the other green states. I think you said Missouri, right? So if we click on Missouri, this is just an example. This is not all green states. It says assessment requirements, yes, okay, which means you do have to do some sort of testing in Missouri. So let's click, I'm just going to pull this up and give you an idea. Again, it's going to be different for every state that's green. Let's see. It just says academic evaluations. This could be regular tests in various subjects. So if you're using a curriculum in Missouri and you do like a weekly test, like these little tests that we do, I guess just keep those on record and that will suffice. They're not saying anything about state standardized testing. So that's good. I test my kids anyway. So like even though when we were in Florida, you didn't have to do standardized testing, I do it anyways just because I want to know where my kid's at. And I just keep the test results to myself. You don't have to submit them if you're in a state that doesn't require it. Someone on TikTok was supposed to send some books and then ghosted me. Wow. Facebook Marketplace is a super helpful resource for homeschool curriculum. eBay, as a matter of fact, this 5 in a row, Charlotte Mason, this is the volume 1, but there's a volume for every grade level, age level. eBay, I've been getting them off of eBay, and the books that go along with it, cheaper on there than to buy them brand new. Former public school teacher, new homeschool mom, what website? This website that I have up here is hslda.org, which stands for Homeschool Legal Defense Association. It's a team of lawyers that have all the homeschool laws uploaded on here. You can also just go to your state's Department of Education website. They usually will have like a homeschool tab that you can click on to get your state laws. That's why I always say starting. Always start with your laws. Like don't just pull it, well, if you have to pull your kid out of school because there's an emergency situation, obviously do it right away, don't wait. But if you can look up the homeschool laws ahead of time so you're not blindsided after you pull your kid out of school, it's helpful to do that as well. And if you've got a kid in public school right now or private school, whatever, and you want to homeschool, a lot of people ask me, like, do I wait until the end of the year? Do I wait until, the new semester? When I was a teacher, this was the time of year where I would lose a lot of students, meaning that people would start homeschooling usually after the winter break. Now, we just finished Thanksgiving break in the public schools just finished Thanksgiving break. Usually they go back to school for a couple more weeks and then they take another 2 weeks off at Christmas. After Christmas is usually when families just don't send their kids back. If you are in a state where the law says you don't have to submit any notification, you literally just don't send your kid back to school. But from the teacher's point of view, I would be so worried about my students. Like if the parent just didn't send their kid back to school, never notified us, I would be worried sick. So unless you have like bad blood with your kid's teacher or something, I recommend reaching out, letting just be honest. We've decided to homeschool. Thank you for everything you've done this year or not done this year, depending on your situation. And just let them know. Now, some states you have to let them know. Like, you can get in major legal trouble if you just pull your kid out and don't actually let somebody know. But what I'm saying is, if you are in a state where you don't have to let them know, do it, at least let the teacher know, right? Please, just from a teacher's perspective, I would be so worried if one of my students just like didn't show up to school anymore and we never found out why. Myra, this is the 5 in a row, and it's backwards, 5 in a row. This is a Charlotte Mason style curriculum where you read a little cute storybook with your kid 5 days in a row, and then there's learning activities to go along with it. I have a playlist on my page that goes into that. That's the one that, it's $50 for that teacher's guide, but eBay, they had it cheaper. Again, this is for educational purposes only. I'm not selling anything. I don't make commission. I have to keep saying that because TikTok sees me holding stuff up to the camera and thinks that I'm trying to sell it. I'm starting the Horizon Kinder curriculum in January. Okay, so Brittany, we were using the, right here, Horizons. This is the Horizons Kindergarten and Phonics, or Kindergarten Phonics and Reading. And you can see it's very, very colorful compared to Christian Light, which is not very colorful. The problem that I had with this one, you can see my kid doing her work there, and you might experience this too. It moves super fast. Like, they learn a letter sound and then bam, they're like writing sentences. And it was very overwhelming for my child, especially because it's only 1 page a day. So Horizons Kindergarten, it's only 1 page back and front a day, but they cram a lot in there. With Christian Light, each of our activities, it's like 4 pages, which sounds like a lot, but it's review, review, review. You learn a little something new, and then you go back and you review stuff that you've already learned. So it doesn't seem as overwhelming because it's all stuff that my kid can do independently, except for the new skill each day, okay? And you can see like sight words, they call them star words, but they underline words that the kids cannot necessarily sound out. Words that are not underlined are words that they can phonetically sound out. And then every day I time her. This is a little clock, which means I set the timer. She reads her word list, and then she's trying to beat her time each day. With Horizons, there was nothing like that. It was just like throwing new stuff at her constantly, and it was very overwhelming. But it is a curriculum. Horizons is a curriculum that's used by a lot of private schools. If that makes you feel better. Have you tried Hearth and Story? I just bought it and we're kind of new. I haven't heard of that. I have not heard of that one. We also have, like, you'll see when you hear me talk about supplements, that's like stuff that I just kind of add on for fun. So like Horizons Health, Life Pack Bible, preschool. Somebody was asking about preschool. So I have a 3-year-old. And this is what we've been using with her. This is the Horizons Preschool. You can see super, super gentle, little coloring, circling, matching. She likes this because she feels like a big girl, right? Like her coloring. Matching, it's super cute. And this is Horizons for 3s. So if you have a 3-year-old, this is the one you want. They also have a 4-year-old program that's cute too. So how do you keep a toddler entertained and quiet when working with the older kids? Almost 2. Yeah, we're struggling with that right now. I used to, you said yours is almost 2, so that's still pretty young, but I used to rotate them where everybody was on, like one kid was on the iPad for 30 minutes doing learning, like a learning app, and then I would rotate them so I'm only working with one kid at a time. That kind of helped ease the interruptions. Right now, we've kind of just been sitting my 3-year-old up with us, and she's just kind of coloring, but it's hard. Like, I'm constantly being interrupted by her. And I have a 1-year-old too. So I have the 1-year-old and the 3-year-old while I'm trying to work with my 5-year-old and 8-year-old interrupting, and it is a task for sure. But rotations, like I was talking about, where like maybe I work 20 minutes with my 8-year-old while the other 2 are building blocks, and then I pull the 5-year-old to the table, my 8-year-old goes off, I pull the 5-year-old to the table while everybody else is doing blocks or something. I'm trying to do it that way. I'm starting with my 3rd grader in January, but worried it'll be hard to get her to do the work. So it is going to be hard because you are mom, and now you're trying to establish your place as teacher. So you're already an authority figure as mom, but in like a nurturing, gentle way. And then when you switch over to this authoritarian like teacher, it's very hard for them to it's like a very fine line between those. So don't waver on your expectations, like be consistent. If they're acting up or misbehaving, like I do not let that slide, especially during school time, and we just have to be so consistent with it. And then eventually they'll understand your expectation. Like, no, you are not going outside to play and have free time and fun until this work is done. And they can throw a fit 5 days in a row, but eventually by day 6, they're gonna realize, oh, mom meant business. Like, I really can't go play until I finish my work. Did you start kindergarten with Christian Light? Yes. So the kindergarten Christian Light is interesting, and I have videos on this on my page. There's a kindergarten 1 and a kindergarten 2. Kindergarten 1 is what you start with. Kindergarten 2 is what you finish with. Very, very gentle starting out. So this Christian Light kindergarten, it feels babyish at first, but it picks up, and by the end of kindergarten 2, it really prepares them well for that learning to read program that I was showing you here. So this is considered the first half of first grade. But this was super cute. I loved this program. Excuse me. What do you recommend for kindergarten science? So we have tried a bajillion different science curriculums. I don't like any of them. We've tried unit study boxes with Schoolhouse Discoveries. That was pretty cool. I have some videos on my page about that. But ultimately what we've done is we've just settled on this 5 in a row curriculum that has science activities included in it. So this is not a full science curriculum. This has, lessons for all of the different subjects that you can incorporate, and I just pick out the science lessons from it, if that makes sense. Lynette says, what about Gather Round? So Gather Round is one that I had like $500 worth of it in my cart, and I ended up not going with it because there's like some sketchy controversy around that curriculum. You can actually look it up here on TikTok, like look up Gather Round controversy. That kind of turned me off. And then also there's a lot of typos in that curriculum. And part of the controversy was that a lot of stuff was being pulled from like Wikipedia, supposedly, that's what everybody was saying. And then with all the spelling errors, it just kind of turned me off. But it's really beautiful. And I love that you can use Gather Round with like multiple ages. But I don't know, I just couldn't get past like the weird political controversy stuff that was going on. The requirements for Texas. So Texas is one of the best states to homeschool in. So on the map, you can see Texas is green, which that's like your first clue that it's going to be a good homeschool state. And then when you click on Texas, the only thing that you have in the state of Texas are state mandated subjects. So you don't have to file a letter of intent. You don't have to do state testing. You don't have to submit your vaccination records. The only thing you have to do is make sure that you are covering math, reading, spelling and grammar, and good citizenship. And again, that's just something that you would want to keep on file in case they were to ask. Since you're not doing any assessments or evaluations, the state really isn't going to know if you're teaching those things, but they always have the right to check. It's kind of like an audit. It could be like a random audit. So that's it for Texas. Idaho, Alexandra, let's see. So Idaho is also green, which is always a good sign, like I said, but just because it's green doesn't mean you don't have anything. Okay, Idaho is the same exact way, just like Texas. You don't need to submit your vaccination records. You don't have to do any state testing, but you do have state mandated subjects. And in Idaho, your state mandated subjects, it does not, oh, here we go. Language arts, math, science, and social studies. And then when they get, oh, it says, excuse me, with additional flexibility in grades 11 and 12, whatever that means. Yeah, so, oh, and somebody was asking about the Christian Light Education preschool. They're cute little booklets. I think I have them right here to show you. But I don't think I would consider it like a full curriculum, Christian Light Education preschool. It's just cute little workbooks. I can't find them right now. My stuff is everywhere. But I don't know, it's like matching, tracing, that kind of thing, if that's what you're looking for. Do you have to use a curriculum? It totally depends on your state. Some states require that you have legitimate like instruction from a program. Some states you can just figure it out on your own and take a test at the end of the year. Some states don't even require that. Okay. Acellus Academy, Ashley, I was talking about that one earlier. I don't know if I'm repeating myself, if you all heard me about that. But Acellus Academy, good thing about it is an accredited program, meaning they will provide you the diploma and the transcripts at the end of the year. Downside is it's pretty expensive, in my opinion. Also, the online curriculums, it totally depends on your kid's personality. Like, I loved Time for Learning. I thought that was a really cool one. Some people think it's too, like, cartoony and kid-ish. So again, it kind of depends on your child. And I want to show you guys too, there is a curriculum that you've heard me talk about before called Beast Academy. If you've got a boy, I mean girls too, boy, girl, whatever, especially like if they're into comic books, a lot of ADHD kids thrive with this curriculum because, as you can see, the lessons are taught using comic books. Or comics, I should say. And so they're learning a math lesson and it's comic book style. And then after they read the little comic, that is when they go in and they do their actual worksheets to go along with it. So this is called Beast Academy. They do have an online program also that goes along with that. That's pretty cool. Yes, North Carolina. Yep, we were just talking about the North Carolina ones because that's where I just moved to. Oh, you just started Acellus, coming from the Good and the Beautiful. Yeah, we did a full year of the Good and the Beautiful, and it was a learning experience for sure. Memoria Press is pretty interesting. So that's kind of like a Charlotte Mason style too, where you're using books and you're pulling the lessons through the books. I saw Memoria Press at a homeschool convention, and I really liked them. Never personally used it though. Hawaii. I've never had anybody ask about Hawaii. Let's see. I don't know. Let's see what Hawaii's homeschool laws are. Which, by the way, Hawaii and Alaska are on here. If you scroll down, it even has Guam, Puerto Rico, American Samoa. Like, they have our territories on here as well, which that's so, I don't know why I never even thought that our territories would adhere to the same homeschool laws. Anyways, let's look up Hawaii. So Hawaii's dark blue, which means you are going to have some laws. You do have to file a letter of intent in Hawaii. You can't just pull your kid out. You got to like actually, well, I shouldn't say you can't pull your kid out. Once you pull your kid out, you have to let them know what you're doing. You do not have any state mandated subjects, but you do have state testing. So let's click on that and see in Hawaii, you have to use curriculum that complies with the statute. So in Hawaii, you have to use like a legitimate curriculum. You do have to keep your own records in Hawaii. Submit annual progress reports. And then if they're in grades 3, 5, 8, or 10, you do have to take standardized tests and submit those to the state of Hawaii. So you have some stuff to do in Hawaii, but it's nothing like crazy. Okay, CC. So somebody's asking about classical conversations. We were a classical conversations family for 3 years. We used to print out like the extra activities and the sandbox activities and things like that, but it wasn't consistent. And we really just stuck with the Christian Light Education curriculum. So like, you know how if you're in classical conversations, you know what I'm talking about, where they're always like pushing what they want. So like that math, whatever their new math curriculum is, like they wanted everybody to switch over to that math curriculum. When I already spent the money on my Christian Light math curriculum, I'm not switching over to what they want, like Math Mind or Math Map or something like that. So I don't know, that just like turned me off. Florida, we have it pretty easy. Yep, so Florida is considered, it's a light blue state on the map. If you're getting scholarship funding in the state of Florida, then you will not be doing an evaluation with me at the end of the year, like, or a certified teacher, whoever you choose. Instead, if you're getting scholarship funding in Florida, you actually have to take the state testing at the end of the year. And this is for the PEP scholarship. Unique Abilities is different. And if you're not in Florida and you don't know what I'm talking about, then don't worry about this. This is just for Florida people. Unique Abilities scholarship people, you can still do your evaluation with me or whoever, and not have to do the state testing. We've been trying the classical conversations, science, and social studies. So Megan, that's kind of what we did. Like whatever the science topic was for that week in classical conversations, I just kind of like played off of that. We'd watch YouTube videos and stuff, but I didn't really like dive into it. Okay, South Carolina. South Carolina is dark blue, so you do have some things that you need to do. Okay, so South Carolina, you do need to do something by age 5. So that's another thing. Like some of these states, you don't have to submit anything until age 7 or 8. But in South Carolina, you need to start doing something by age 5. You have teacher qualifications in South Carolina. So this means most likely it's a diploma, high school diploma. Let me see. Also, you'll see on here, there are different options for homeschooling in certain states. Like maybe you want to homeschool under an umbrella school or something like that. But if you want to homeschool in South Carolina, you must have a high school diploma or GED or a bachelor degree. And then in South Carolina, you do have to homeschool for 180 days per year. At least 4.5 hours is considered a school day. So dang, South Carolina even like breaks it down by hour. You do have to maintain records in South Carolina. That could be a plan book, written records, portfolio, a semi-annual progress report, attendance records, and then testing annually. So you do have to do, it says the Basic Skills Assessment Program for South Carolina. But like I said, go to the South Carolina School Board Department of Education website, and it'll break it down even further. This is just giving you like a general idea. This is hslda.org. I don't know how to send a chat to the chat. Like, can I not send a chat in here? So I could just like put it in there, hslda.org. And then California, light blue, we'll click on California. So in California, starting by age 6, you do have to send a letter of intent. You do have some state mandated subjects, meaning you can't just teach whatever you want. You have to, I'm going to click on home-based. So if you're doing home-based program in California, send in a letter of intent, maintain your attendance. Instruction must be in English. That's California. That's a requirement. Instructors must be capable of teaching, but it doesn't specify like what exactly you need to have. Provide instruction in language arts, math, science, social studies, health, and driver training. You do have to have vaccination records or exemptions. Or I don't know in California, actually. I don't know. I don't even know if you can do exemptions in California anymore. And that's pretty much it. So no state testing, but you do have to keep a lot of records of other stuff. Thank you. hslda.org. Thank you so much, Anastasia. You can pin a comment. All right, let me do that. I think I can figure out how to do that. Pin this comment. That's the website. So I just put Anastasia or Anastasia up there, but it looks like it's going to go away in 50 seconds. That's the map that you see here. I know the comments are going so fast and I'm missing like a whole bunch. Can you get paid to homeschool? Okay, this is a huge misconception with a lot of states that offer like scholarship funding. So let me just give you Florida as an example. When I was homeschooling in Florida, I got $8,000 a year per child to homeschool under their PEP scholarship program. And the only trade-off was that I had to do state testing at the end of the year and submit those state test scores to the state. That's why a lot of parents don't want to do it because they're like, I don't want to give the state my test scores. When I say that the state gave me $8,000, that is not $8,000 deposited into my bank account. So when people say, oh, in Florida, you get paid to homeschool. No. What it is, it's a reimbursement program. So I can, purchase curriculum, submit it, and then get reimbursed for what I spent on that. So I'm not really getting paid to homeschool necessarily, but it is assistance for curriculum and extracurriculars too. Like my kids' gymnastics was covered. Anything that you could prove as being academically necessary or extracurriculars necessary. But it's not money that's going straight into your pocket. Virginia has a tax credit. So that's true too. So certain states that have tax credits for homeschooling, that kind of thing. Yeah, but it's not like there's no program where you're getting paid like a teacher salary to homeschool your kid. Now there is something called micro schools. So like I'm a certified teacher. So I could, well now I'm in the state of North Carolina, but when I was in the state of Florida, I'm a Florida certified teacher. I could start a mini school at my house or wherever, and I could charge people to teach their children. That is one way to make money, but you have to be a certified teacher to do something like that. Oklahoma too, Alicia said. Oklahoma has a tax credit as well. Heather, what about SPED kids? So do you mean what about them in terms of homeschooling, or are you talking about specifically with the scholarship? Because before I left the classroom, that was my last 3 years of teaching. I was there's so many different terms for it now. Some people are offended by special education. You know, we called it varying exceptionalities. We're talking about special education, but politically correctedness term, I don't know what you want to use. Anyways, in terms of homeschooling, like if your kid has an IEP in the public school system, an IEP is a federal program, IDEA. That's how you get your IEP, under that program or under that law. When you start homeschooling, some parents choose to keep that IEP active, where you still attend your annual reviews, and every 3 years you have a reevaluation. Most homeschooling parents with kids that have IEPs, they just let the IEP expire and they don't do anything with it. You basically are your kid's IEP, right? So if your kid needs accommodations in your homeschool, you're just going to provide them. You don't necessarily need a document to tell you what to do when you homeschool. The scary part about getting rid of the IEP when you homeschool is, like, let's say your kid's IEP expires, you've been homeschooling for a couple years, and now something financial has happened and your kid has to go back to school. You're going to have to start the IEP process all over again. And those of you that have kiddos with IEPs, you know how stressful that is and how long of a process that is. So should you keep the IEP active? Should you not? It totally depends on, like, if you think you're going to be homeschooling for a long time. Myra, where do we find an annual state test? So if you're in a state where you get to choose, because some states you have to do the test that they want. In Florida and in a lot of other states, you get to pick, as long as it's an actual test. It's not just something printed off the computer. So for us, we do MAP. That's Measures of Academic Progress, MAP. The MAP test, you just order it online and you take it at home. Another option is the Iowa test, like the state, IOWA, Iowa test. We've done both of those and I like them both. I think the Iowa test actually gave me better insight into what my kids' strengths and weaknesses were. The MAP test didn't provide as good of a report. I think it was an easier test though. I have videos on my page going through all the different test options. I have a whole playlist called Testing, Homeschool Testing. And you can go through and there's the CAT test, California Achievement Test, IXL, which is an app. They have a diagnostic test that you can take. It'll tell you what grade level your kid is on for different subjects. A lot of states will accept that. So many options out there. And everything you hear me talk about during the lives, I have a video for. I guarantee I have a video on a playlist somewhere about it. If you just search it on TikTok, my stuff should just pop up. Kansas is not as scary as you thought. Let me see Kansas as a matter of where. I don't even know where Kansas is on the freaking map. Oh, here we go. Oh, smack dab in the middle of the United States. Okay. Kansas. I'm pretty good with my states. I don't know. Kansas just slipped my mind. Yeah, Kansas. That's weird. Did you see on here for Kansas assessment requirements periodic? Let's see what they mean by that. Obviously, you just looked this up so you know. Test your student periodically. That's it. It does not give any details about that in Kansas. I'm starting to homeschool and don't even know where to start. So Elizabeth, on my page, like the very first pinned video, I think it literally says like how to start homeschooling. And I just try to give you like a quick list of things to do. A lot of these things are optional though. Like some parents just want to take a year and chill. Like I don't recommend doing nothing academic, but like where you don't use a curriculum, you do like kind of unschooling for a year if your state allows that. If you're type A like me and that makes you panic, like I can't just do nothing for a year, I get that too. So you could always just find a curriculum, like literally YouTube homeschool curriculum for 3rd grade. And I have tons of videos reviewing different curriculums. TikTok's a great resource. Doing testing is always a good idea. When you pull your kid out of school, even if they're like a 1st grader, okay, let's say you're pulling your 6-year-old out of the 1st grade and you think, oh, they're only 6 years old. Like I'm just going to start them in a first grade curriculum. You would be amazed at how much is covered between kindergarten and first grade and how much could have been missed during that time period. So I still recommend going and taking placement tests, diagnostic tests, online tests to see, like, is my kid really on the first grade, or do I need to back them up to kindergarten? Or it could, if you have an 8th grader and maybe you need to back them up to 5th grade, back them up. Always back them up. Don't just assume. What are your thoughts on arithmetic math? Okay, so versus conceptual. I think that I prefer the old school rote memorization. Conceptual is important, but from what I'm seeing, like with my own kids, for example, we used to use Matthew C. I think I have it right here. The Matthew C curriculum is very conceptual. So if you, maybe some of you have seen, I have videos on this too. We purchased the Matthew C. Oh, I'm not supposed to show barcodes. This is educational purposes only. I'm not selling anything. These little blocks that you see, this is called Matthew C because they're literally seeing, that's where the term comes from. They're seeing the math, they're moving it, they're manipulating it. This, I don't know, it was weird to me. A lot of people love it, but I just prefer Christian Light Education's straight up, like, this is how you add, this is how you subtract, this is how, and like this, like literally math facts. Okay, she does pages and pages and pages of math facts per day, but I swear it has made my kids stronger mathematicians compared to when we were doing the Matthew C. Let me show you this too. So this is the 2nd grade math. This is the Christian Light. This is for my 2nd grader. The one I was just showing you was my 1st grader. My 2nd grader, I'm sure some of you recognize this, just old school addition, right? Carry the 1. Here, she did a subtraction problem, and then it had her check her subtraction using addition. Very concrete. None of this Common Core, do it a million different ways, which I hope I'm making the right decision with that. I feel like it's made a difference for my kids personally, but I mean, we'll see. Only time will tell. We had done Christian Light, then went to Master Books, but going back to Christian Light. Megan, is that for math specifically? I'm curious. Let me know if that's what you're talking about. I'm going to scroll up and read because these comments, like I said, I'm so sorry. They're going so fast. Okay, secular. So when you hear or see the word secular, that means non-faith-based. It's not Christian. It's not following any sort of doctrine. Secular is secular. Okay, and so if you're using a secular science curriculum, you are going to get the evolutionist's point of view for creation. If you are using a faith-based curriculum, more than likely with science, you're going to get the creationist's perspective. You know what I mean? So somebody was asking about secular, specifically non-faith-based curriculum. Most of what you see me show is going to be faith-based because we're Christians. However, there are good secular options out there. One that I always recommend is called Moving Beyond the Page. I think I have a little thing to show you. Moving Beyond the Page. It is secular, no religion, no faith, no, here it is, no nothing. It looks like this. I know it's backwards, I'm sorry guys. Moving Beyond the Page. And this is interesting because it's not like you buy like 1st grade or 2nd grade. It's a range. So like you can see here, ages 9 to 11. So you could have a 9-year-old doing this level or an 11-year-old. It kind of depends on their ability. I like that. And it's secular. Time for Learning is an online program that is secular as well. Acellus Academy and Power Homeschool, they go together. I thought that one was secular. Somebody tell me in the comments. But then I learned that like the creator of it, there's like controversy around the creator and his religion. So let me know about that. Shayla, I liked Time for Learning. That's one that I consider going back to all the time. Like when I'm struggling with my kids and I'm like, oh, I just want to do an online program. That's one that I always consider going back to. It's not an accredited program though. So if you start Time for Learning, they're not going to give you a diploma at the end. They're not going to do the transcripts for you. You are going to have to do all that yourself, which is fine. That's no big deal. Do you have any homeschool curriculum that are not religion-based? So here in front of me, what I was just showing you, Matthew C, this is secular, not faith-based, not religious. The other one that I was showing you, Beast Academy, that looked like the little comic books. This one right here. Also a math program that is not faith-based. This is secular, Beast Academy. Those are 2 math options. In terms of language arts, reading, those kind of things, like I said, the Moving Beyond the Page one is the one that I typically recommend. And then Time for Learning being secular as well. But I don't have any right here to show you. Anything to teach my preschoolers math. So preschool, are we talking like 3, 4 years old? Because what I was showing, I don't know if it depends on if you were in here or not. Hold on a second, it's yelling at me. Let me do my little puzzle piece. Okay, so this Christian Light, it says kindergarten on it, but I feel, we started this with my daughter when she was 4. And now she's 5, working in the 1st grade. So she's already a full year ahead because we started this with her when she was 4. And it worked very well for her. If you didn't want to jump to kindergarten right away, even though I'm telling you that one is like so gentle, like you could do that one with a 4-year-old, then there are preschool options. Like this is Horizons preschool that you could use with a 3 or 4-year-old. I don't really like using online stuff for super, super young kids. I prefer to do things like, you know, with them, not necessarily online. But sometimes you have to. Like if you're a full-time working homeschool parent, online might be your only option, and that's fine. I think that's still better than putting them in the school system. Do I donate the books you no longer use? I typically just pass them down to friends. I pass them down. I hold on to all of the curriculum that my kids have written in and used, and that helps during these lives because I can like show you like that Good and the Beautiful I was showing you earlier. But yeah, typically my friends and I, we just kind of like pass curriculum among each other. I haven't sold any curriculum. Like I've kind of just been hoarding it, as you can see. I don't want to get rid of any of it. Pulling my daughters from private Christian school at the end of this year and homeschooling next year. That's exciting, Court. Yeah, like I was saying, you know, some people, if there's no emergency situation, like there's not like a bullying situation or something like that, pulling them out at the end of the year, it gives you time to plan. You can get things ready for next year. Whereas parents who there's a situation that is dire and you need to get your kid out ASAP, that's when it's like, I don't have a curriculum, I don't have anything planned, and it can be a little overwhelming. But when you give yourself that time to plan, it can really be helpful in the end. That's kind of like us. Like we were touring private schools thinking that we were going to put our kids, I knew I wasn't going to put them in public school. So I was like, yeah, maybe we'll do private. Toured all these private schools in the summer, thinking that my kid would start in August. And my husband and I were like, this is like nothing special. Like we're paying tens of thousands of dollars for this? Like I could do this. Now, that's not because I'm a certified teacher. I don't really think me being a certified teacher has done much for our homeschool journey, to be honest with you. Anybody can do it. You just, you know, these curriculums that you purchase, these are scripts, you guys. Like, this is a script, okay? The dark letters, that's what you say to your kid. So if you don't know how to teach your kid their letter sound or teach your kid how to read, this is teaching you. It's telling you word for word. And it's not just this curriculum that I'm showing you. Every curriculum, the Good and the Beautiful, a lot of people use the Good and the Beautiful because, let me show you the script in that one. With the Good and the Beautiful, your kid is going to be writing in the same book that you are teaching from. So there's no separate teacher's guide. But like this, the Good and the Beautiful, it tells you what to say to your child, word for word, okay? Even on the activity pages that she was doing, tells you exactly what to say. So don't feel like you can't do it, like you can't teach. The curriculums are gonna, and hold on, sorry, I'm getting all over the place. Even teachers that are certified, I have a master's degree, I have my certifications, we still use curriculums like this in the classroom where I'm looking down at the math book and I'm reading what to say to the kids. It's not like teachers are doing anything different that you can't do in your own homeschool when you have the teacher's guide right in front of you. It's the same teacher's guide that public school teachers are looking at, right? Depending on the curriculum. Okay, so Angela is asking, what do you do to fill in the gaps that are left behind from public school? Like you've pulled your kid out of public school, you know they're missing a whole bunch of stuff. What do you do? The first thing you have to do is you have to pinpoint where those gaps are. Like don't just assume, okay, I know Bobby's not good at adding, so let's just work on adding. I always say do a legitimate assessment. where it tests all the skills for that grade level, and then it will give you a report saying, Bobby, he can't add, he can't subtract, he struggled with geometry, it'll really pinpoint it. There are lots of options out there for you to take those kind of tests. One is IXL, those 3 letters, IXL. I'm not affiliated with them. No, this is just me recommending. They have a diagnostic test that you can take, and it will tell you exactly what skills your child did well on, what they are struggling on, if they're on grade level. And then from there, you can start filling in the gaps, as we say. And a lot of times, I know it sounds scary, that might mean that little Bobby is going all the way back to kindergarten for math. Like, he's in 3rd grade, but that diagnostic test said that he doesn't even know his letter sounds or his numbers or whatever. He's going back to kindergarten. And what's cool is you're homeschooling, so it's not like he's got peer pressure where they know that he's going back to kindergarten level. You're just doing it in the home, filling in the gaps. That is what I recommend. Doing the testing, finding out for sure where they're struggling, and then going back through and filling in those gaps. Okay, so Blake, no, I am not worried about the socialization aspect at all. That was actually the one thing I was most worried about. I think a lot of homeschool parents, that's like the thing, right? Like, how is my kid going to get socialized? We are over socialized as homeschoolers. Like, when I tell you the amount of friends that my kids have made, mostly other homeschooling families, because that's the groups that we're in. They do jujitsu 3 days a week, tons of homeschooling friends from there. Most of our closest friends homeschool as well, but just getting them out into society, right? Socializing in society, like natural interactions, not forced interactions in a room with the same kids day after day. That's not natural. So just honestly, just getting them out into the world. I go grocery shopping, they come with me. We go, pay our mortgage down at the bank, they come with. They're seeing these interactions. They're talking with the cashiers at the store. They're not glued to an iPad or a phone in the shopping cart. Just real life stuff. And you could always join a co-op. So this year we are not part of a co-op, but that's always an option as well. Homeschool co-ops. Facebook groups are the best for that. So let's say you live in El Paso, Texas, and you just search for a Facebook group, El Paso, Texas Homeschool Moms. And I'm sure there's a group that's going to pop up where you can post in there, play dates, events. Local libraries always have really good homeschool events going on. Angela, he's in 4th grade and barely reading. That should sound shocking, but that is really, really common right now, sadly. And with him being in 4th grade, that means what? He was like kindergarten, 1st grade during 2020, all that craziness. So 4th grade, barely reading, like I said, if you can pinpoint. Now, when you take an assessment like IXL or one of the state tests, it's not just going to say, oh, he's struggling in reading. It's going to tell you specifically he doesn't know his digraphs, his letter blends, he doesn't know, ending sounds or whatever it might be. And that's how specific these tests are, to where you can go all the way back. Okay, we're going to start with our letter sounds. I'm sorry you're in 4th grade. I know this might feel embarrassing, but we are literally going to go back to the alphabet and work on letter sounds. And again, he might fight you on it, right? This is babyish. Why am I doing my letter sounds? But I swear he's going to be thanking you in 10 years when he's an adult who can read. Because most of the 4th graders right now that can't read are going to be adults that can't read, because that's how crazy it is about filling in these gaps, you guys. Like, just pushing these kids along, not addressing the deficits at the early ages. They are going to be adults that can't read. Go look up the literacy rates for high school graduates, right? Meaning they made it all the way through 12th grade. Look up the literacy rates. And yes, they will still get a high school diploma, which is freaking insane to me. Help my child to read. 7.5 years old. She knows the letter sound. Sorry, these comments are going so fast. Okay. Where'd it go? Okay, 7.5 years old. She knows the sounds. What programs do you like? Okay, so once they nail down the letter sound, so this is what we call phonics, okay? Phonics meaning putting sounds to the letters, right? Once they know their letter sounds, that's when you're going to start doing something called blending. Now, if you have no clue what I'm talking about, that is the beauty of programs. This is the one that I love. 7.5. You could start this at 7.5. You might want to start halfway through the program. Whatever. They have placement tests you can see for yourself. But this is going to teach you, okay, we know our letter sounds now. Now we're going to start blending these letters together. You know the A sound and you know the T sound. We're going to blend them together at. oh, now you know the C sound, k-at. And I mean, it sounds so simple when I say it to you like that, but it's an actual research-based system. It's not just this one. All phonics curriculums do the same thing. But at 7.5, I would hope that we're starting to blend at this point. They should actually, if we're going by standards, by 7.5, they should be far beyond that. But that's the beauty of homeschooling. You can back them up, put them where they need to be, fill in those gaps, and then catch up later. Thank you for helping others with this. You are welcome, Nanny. Do you have to start with volume 1 and 5 in a row? No, and as a matter of fact, I was in a predicament because with this 5 in a row, we're starting with volume 1. I know it's hard to read, but it is volume 1. If you notice, it says here the age range. Okay, so here's the age range, 5 to 9. So you could do volume 1 with this age range, 5 to 9. Well, I have an 8-year-old that's gonna be 9, so I was like, and she's pretty advanced. So I was like, I don't know, do we start? Maybe we should go to volume 2. But I also have a 5-year-old, so I was like, for convenience purposes, I'm gonna do volume 1 with both my 5-year-old and my almost 9-year-old, and it's working well with that. Maybe you have an 11-year-old, you would go to volume 2. That's the age range that you wanna pay attention to. So Elizabeth, so placement tests, this is tricky with so if everybody's listening to me talk about testing, 2 different types of tests. A placement test is usually going to be specific to that curriculum. So if you want to start Christian Light education, but you don't know what grade level to start them in, you would go to Christian Light's website and take their placement test. It will specifically tell you what grade level they are in for that curriculum. Same thing with Horizons and LifePack. Their website is going to have their own placement test, and it's not going to be the same. Like, your kid might place in the 2nd grade for Christian Light education, but in the 1st grade for Horizons, because every program's different. That's a placement test, figuring out what place they are with that curriculum. The testing that I was just talking about, where you figure out, like, okay, do they know their letter sounds? Are they on 2nd grade level? Do I need to back them up? That's called a diagnostic test. So placement test and diagnostic test, different. Diagnostic test is diagnosing your kid's deficits, strengths, and weaknesses. And that's the ones that I was talking about. IXL is one. Now that's like a subscription. I think you pay $10 a month for it. What I do, I pay the $10, I take the diagnostic test, and then I cancel. But another option, if you do the IXL diagnostic test, again, this is not sponsored, nothing, I'm just recommending it. If you want to keep your subscription, it's like $10 a month or something, then they'll actually give your kid lessons based on what those diagnostic test results were. So it's benefit to keeping it, we just cancel it. But that's how you figure out where your kid's deficits are. Like, I know we all feel like we know our kids so well, and we do, but the tests are nice because it really pinpoints. Like, I know my kid struggles with telling time, but when she takes her diagnostic test, maybe I notice, okay, she can't count by 5s. So no wonder she's struggling with telling time. If you can't count by 5s, you're really going to struggle with telling time. So the diagnostic test is going to give you more insight. And sometimes people don't even bother with the diagnostic test, and they just go right to state tests. Like, you can just order state tests online, different standardized tests, norm reference tests. I have tons of options, playlists, videos that I've made about the different tests that are out there. Volume 2 is the same age range? Really? I haven't gotten the volume 2 yet. So maybe in that case, like, oh, you know what I wonder? I wonder if it's the same age range because, like, maybe you get through all the stories quicker than 1 year. So you just go into volume 2 then? That's interesting. We're just going to move into volume 2 after volume 1, just because I love the stories so much and I don't want to skip any. I don't want to miss any. But if your kid's older, the volume 1 stories might seem a little babyish. Very active and difficulty staying focused kiddo. Yeah, that and 1st grade, developmentally, 1st graders are supposed to be squirrely. I actually have a video. If you go look, it's on one of my playlists of my 5-year-old. Now with my 5-year-old, I do Christian Light with her. So Christian Light education, that's the Learning to Read program. And then I also do the level 1 math with my 5-year-old. She needs to be moving. And in the video, you will see I'm doing flashcards with her, and she is jumping, like as if she's on a pogo stick. She's just jumping, 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 but she's reciting her math facts perfectly. So I let them stand, move, do whatever, as long as it's not distracting or keeping them from working. The curriculum itself, I don't think is going to matter as much. Now, if you have a hands-on learner, math specifically, there's a program called Right Start Math. Lots of manipulatives, lots of hands-on stuff, moving pieces if they need that visual learner type thing. That's called Right Start Math. And then for reading, there's something called Logic of English. I have not used it, but it's very hands-on. They're moving and manipulating letter tiles to build words. That might be helpful. But if your kid is just one that needs to be moving, I say just let them move. Like I said, we just do our flashcards and she can jump and play. Now, when it's time to sit down and actually do the writing, like, you need to be sitting. You're not jumping around writing. But maybe you take extra breaks, right? So write a couple words, get up and jump and play. Write a couple more words, get up and jump and play. If your daughter, okay, so daughter is 6 and cannot fully read yet, will she still be able to take the placement test for Christian Light? I think on their website, it starts at grade 1. Like, there's not a kindergarten placement test because they just assume if your kid's in kindergarten, they're going to start with the kindergarten program. The Learning to Read program is considered grade 1 for Christian Light. That's what you saw me showing here. I believe the placement test covers this program. And it will probably be like, maybe like it'll show a picture of a cat and then she has to circle the letter that cat starts with. So if she knows her letter sounds, I think she'd be okay. Now, if your kid like fully cannot read at all, period, then you don't even need to do a placement test. You could just start right with this Learning to Read program. This literally starts with letter sounds, like A for A. How do I know if my daughter is reading on grade level? So that would be another case where you would want to take some sort of assessment, online assessments like a diagnostic test. IXL program is the one that I was recommending earlier, or just ordering $70 state test. You don't have to submit your test scores or anything. Like, it's just for your own knowledge, and that will tell you what grade level your kid is reading on. You also do have the option, like there are people online who will do reading assessments. Just be careful with that because it depends on like what test they're using. We used to do these things in the classroom called running records, where you sit down and the kid reads out loud and you're marking all the words that are wrong and it'll tell you what grade level they're on. Even those were inaccurate. So I recommend just doing like a diagnostic test. This is the Learning to Read program. Oh, you said we're on Light Unit 5 of Learning to Read, and it's amazing. That's awesome. We are on Light Unit 3, and I'm like, well, you know, because you're on Light Unit 5, but it's just amazing the system that they use. Like, you know, it starts so basic, and then they're legitimately reading by the 3rd Light Unit. And what's cool, I didn't bring it out, but the books that go along with this program, a lot of programs are like this too, not just them. The stories that they read in their books that go along with each lesson, they only give the kids words with letters that they've learned. So there's no like curveballs. It's really good for their confidence. It'll put pictures in place of words that they might not know yet. Like your kid doesn't know how to spell house. It'll just show a picture of a house for that word. I love that. I don't know Code Breakers. I know there's a program called Explode the Code. But I haven't personally used it. I think that's the one my friend's using, Explode the Code. 7, 6, 3, 2, and 1. Oh my goodness. That's actually very similar to our spread. How do we transition to homeschool without losing our minds? Ernesto, I do basically lose my mind every day. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is such a test on your patience. And when you have so many, like I said, your age spread is very similar to mine. Your 7 and your 6-year-old are the ones you're going to want to focus on academically. Your 3 and your 2-year-old, you really are just going to want to focus on like building a love of learning, lots of reading books together. And if you can split them into groups, like your 7 and 6-year-old, maybe you bring them to the table and you do your lessons with them, while the 3 and the 2-year-old and the 1-year-old are off playing blocks, or if you do screen time, you know, watching something. and then you flip-flop. Okay, now your 7 and your 6-year-old are going to go off and do something independently, and then you're going to bring your youngins to the table and do Play-Doh or something. That's the easiest way for us to do it, is splitting the kids into groups, because when they're all just going at the same time, I get extremely overwhelmed pretty much every single day. And it's just, you just have to keep reminding yourself, like, this is the best place for them. You are doing what's best for them. I shower like every freaking 3 days, I feel like, because it's just, that is my priority right now. I'm not really worried about myself. You kind of lose yourself in it, but it's still worth it to me. Because I always think, like, if I woke up in the morning and drove my kids to school, okay, like when on our hard days, when I'm like, I'm just going to put them in school. I always think, like, let's say I wake up in the morning, I drive them to school, and then, oh my gosh, I have like 7 hours to myself. Holy moly, I could clean, I could read, I could do my makeup, do all the things. And then I go pick them up after school. Oh, how's your day? And they, they might tell me a little bit, but I don't really know. I just feel like the pit in my stomach I would feel, even though I got those 7 beautiful hours to myself, I don't think that pit in my stomach that I would feel upon picking them up at the end of the day and like not really knowing how their day really went, it is not worth it to me. Do you have a specific homeschool room or area? Okay, what you see me sitting in right now is our homeschool shed. Clearly it's a hot mess. We got insulation going. We're gonna get the walls up soon. And I have videos on one of my homeschooling playlists of like what we're doing with this shed. So that's like my husband's framing in the walls back there. That's gonna be a bathroom and a closet. We'll have, whiteboards, desks, whatever. But right now we're just homeschooling in the living room. And it's horrible. It is so horrible because I got so many kids. So it's like, all right, we pull out the first grade stuff, we put that away. Okay, now we're pulling out the third grade stuff, putting that away. Whereas having a designated area like our shed here, I'll have shelves. This is the first grade shelf. This is the third grade shelf. This is the, kindergarten shelf. And I'm ready for that. But right now we're just homeschooling in our living room. Before we moved here, I did have a designated homeschool room that you can see on my playlist. I have tours and stuff, and I think it's on my YouTube. That was a godsend, like having a designated area. But a lot of people homeschool without a designated area, and they do just fine, right? So it's not, I don't think it's a necessity, but it just makes life a lot easier. Story of the World, Lauren, we used that for a while. We used it more so as just like a read aloud, like the actual Story of the World chapter book, which I might have out here somewhere. The actual curriculum itself that had like the activities and stuff, we did not really use fully. So I can't really speak on that, but I liked it. It was like a Christian perspective of history. Oh my gosh, yeah, Ernesto. So the daily routine, I'll give everybody kind of an overview of what our days look like right now. Now, keep in mind, I have 4 kids, 8, 5, 3, and 1, all girls, 8, 5, 3, and 1. 8-year-old is 3rd grade, 5-year-old is 1st grade, technically kindergarten, but we bumped her up. The 3-year-old just is not anything, preschool a little bit, and then obviously the 1-year-old. So we wake up the kids usually wake up around 7:30, and they immediately are starving. They want breakfast immediately. So my husband and I, he works from home, thank God, we try to make sure like breakfast is like going as the kids are waking up, because then they're just starving. So from like 7:30 to 8, they're usually eating breakfast, and during that time is when I'm pulling out stuff for school. And I'm trying to get some alone time in the morning, reading my Bible, like getting some kind of time to myself. So they're all eating breakfast, and that's all 4 of them. All 4 of them are awake at 7:30 eating breakfast. By 9:30, I pull my 8-year-old, only my 8-year-old, and I get her started with her Christian Light education work. So I'm working one-on-one with the 8-year-old. Typically my 5, 3, and 1-year-old are like playing Barbies or something, brushing teeth, doing whatever. So I'm getting my 3rd grader started. And then once I get her situated, the good thing about Christian Light is they have a whole page of just review. So I just do the new lesson with her, and then she goes off on her own and finishes her lesson. And that's when, usually by 10, I pull my 5-year-old for her 1st grade work. And now I've got my 3rd grader working on her own. I'm working one-on-one with my 5-year-old, and the 3 and the 1-year-old are still, they're usually playing Barbies all morning. At some point, I do try to bring everybody together for a read aloud, and that is where we've been doing our 5 in a row curriculum. So once my third grader and first grader are done with their Christian Light, thank you, Shai, that is when we come together as a family to do our read aloud 5 in a row work. And that is typically around 11. So from 9:30 to 11, I've got everybody situated with their core work. Around 11, we get together as a family on the couch. We do our read aloud. We do the activity that goes along with that read aloud for the day. So with this curriculum, this is good when you have a lot of kids. You read the story together, you do an activity together, you're done. And then we're done for the day. And then by 12, they eat lunch. That's when I put the 1-year-old down for a nap. And then she's napping almost till 3. I do still make my 3-year-old nap. She goes down around 1. It's kind of staggered. And then we just kind of chill for the rest of the day. They have jujitsu in the afternoon, so that's a big thing. But that is not something that came automatic. Like, that was a lot of years of trial and error, figuring out, like, I used to just pull them all to the table and try to teach them all at once, and it was too much. I had teacher's guides everywhere. Okay, 3rd grade, kindergarten, this one needs my help. This one needs my help. It was too much. Now, if I just pull one at a time and then flip-flop them, it's been a lot easier. Riley, do you think 5 in a row is enough by itself? So I'm part of this 5 in a row Facebook group that I highly recommend everybody go join. And there are families in there that are using it fully. Like, they don't have anything else. It's just 5 in a row. I don't think I could do that. I just feel like it's fun and it incorporates a lot of history and science and social studies. But, like, I need that explicit teaching, like explicit math, explicit language arts. And it doesn't really do that. It has the fun stuff, not really like the heavy duty stuff. Yesenia, I had a baby a week ago. Congrats. How did you handle that? So with my baby that I had a year ago, I literally sat in the bed with the newborn baby on my chest, and the kids would just bring their workbooks in the bed with me. And I would just have like my 8-year-old sitting next to me with her workbook. And we took it very, very slow. Like, the baby was born December 4th, and we didn't do full-on homeschooling again until mid-January. I gave us about a month of just kind of sitting in the bed, doing little workbooks, singing songs together, just taking it easy. And then I have a baby carrier, like a Tula wrap thing that you'll see in my videos when she was little. I would just hold her in the carrier while I was teaching. And that was the easiest way I could do it. I sent you a private message. So Brooklyn, with anybody that messages me on TikTok, it usually goes into, like, if we're not following each other, it goes into like this requests folder that I usually don't see. It's like a hidden thing. But like Instagram, Facebook, I'm trying to get my Facebook back going up, and YouTube. I don't think you can message me on YouTube. That's usually an easier way to get a hold of me. Comments, I try to read all my comments every morning when I wake up. I'm wanting to try Mia Academy. We used Mia Academy for a little while, and it was okay. A lot of kids like it because it's very, like, engaging and modern. It's modern. Like, Time for Learning is, like, a little, like, the graphics are a little outdated. Mia Academy was very modern. So Whitney, the only thing we're using it for is sometimes my 8-year-old will log on to do, like, sign language or one of, like, the elective courses that I have on there. But we're not using it for our curriculum anymore. Yes, Evelyn. So the evaluations for high schoolers, if you are in the state of Florida and you need a homeschool evaluation, I do it from kindergarten all the way to 12th. So if you've got a 12th grader who needs that, the final evaluation in Florida for a 12th grader, it's like you sign a thing saying like an exit evaluation, basically. That still falls under my certification. We are homeschooling through a charter school and it feels too much. Typically, when you are homeschooling through a charter school, it should feel like less if they're the ones providing everything for you, unless the charter school is just slapping their name on your homeschool and you're still having to figure out the curriculum and do everything that way. I would hope that the charter is doing most of the work for you, though. Oh, the Reading Eggs app, that was like our first, actually, I think I have the Reading Eggs app on the iPad is so good. That was one of our first learning things that we ever did. And I don't have it right here, but there's a workbook that goes along with the Reading Eggs app. So if you're just using the Reading Eggs app, but you want your kid doing like actual worksheets to go along with the lessons, they do have those. Wanting an online option. So I'm just going to shoot off the ones that are coming off my head. So Time for Learning, Mia Academy, Acellus Academy, Monarch is online, but it's, I don't know, apparently they're going to be updating it soon. A lot of people love it, but it's an option. I don't know. It was a little hard to navigate for me. Did I say Power Homeschool? That goes with Acellus. Beast Academy for math, CTC for math. Teaching Textbooks is an online math program. People can shout out in the comments of different online options. Oh, Abeka Academy. If you can afford online Abeka Academy, if you want a Christian-based online program, that is a really good one, because instead of them just watching like an animated video, it's an actual classroom with a teacher standing up in the front of the classroom doing the lesson as your kid is watching the video. It's not live, it's pre-recorded, but that is through Abeka, and we really, really liked that. It was just too expensive. That's the only reason why we quit it. Schoolio. I do not know that one. I've heard of it, but I have not used that one. Oh, yeah. Bree, I think I'm saying that right. We used The Good and the Beautiful for a full year, and it was just not good. Like, it's beautiful. It is beautiful, but it was just not academically, to me. I was like, what? Who created this? Like, just somebody in their garage? Like, it just didn't seem to follow a good academic structure. Like, it kind of felt all over the place, unorganized. You know, some days the lessons were, you know, a couple lines of them to do work, and then other days it was like 3 pages. So Christian Light, it's very predictable. It is the same structure every single day. It is following a legitimate plan, and it just feels solid. You know, with The Good and the Beautiful, I was like, oh, I don't know, like, what this is. Learning to read, is that good for dyslexia? So I will say that learning to read takes a very standard approach to teaching reading and phonics. So if you've got a kiddo with dyslexia, I swear by this program no matter what. Like, when I think back to my students with dyslexia back in the classroom, you know, think about your kids who have dyslexia in the public school. They're not getting a specialized curriculum in the public school. They're using the same curriculum as everybody else, and they might be getting a little bit of one-on-one time with, you know, a special teacher to work on their dyslexia. But with any curriculum, you can modify it yourself. There is a reading curriculum, and it's called All About Reading, and that one is specifically using the Orton-Gillingham method of teaching reading and phonics. That would be one that a lot of families with kids with dyslexia end up transitioning to. But for me, I still feel like you could use any reading curriculum and just modify it for your personal kiddo. And you've got varying levels of dyslexia as well. It's not all treated the same. So depending on that might change which route you want to take. I'm pairing CTC math with Kumon workbooks. So I love CTC math. Like, I think that program is phenomenal. It is super, like, just to the point. It teaches math in like that very procedural manner that I love. And then you said pairing it with Kumon math, which I don't really have a lot of experience with. I know we have a few Kumon like tutoring centers back in Florida. Transferring from private school mid-year, 4th grade, struggling to find the fit. That, again, like in a situation like that, Whitney, would be like testing. Excuse me. Testing. I know, like, we hate how much testing happens in the school system, but with homeschooling, do all the testing up front, figure out their needs. Let's say you take a test. Let's say you take one of the state assessments and it says your kid does not have a good grasp on phonics. Then when you go to look for curriculum, you would want to find a heavily phonics-based curriculum, if that makes sense. So like Christian Light, Abeka, very, very heavy on the phonics. Whereas like The Good and the Beautiful, for example, it has a lot of literature included, but not as heavy on the phonics. So the test is kind of going to reveal which direction you can take with the curriculum. Spelling help. Oh my gosh, spelling is killing us in the homeschool. And like I said, we've been using Christian Light mainly. We've switched around a few times, but Christian Light's our main one. And it's not a curriculum problem. I feel like it's like a developmental problem or something. Like, spelling is such a struggle for us. And I don't feel like there's any specific gap that I'm missing, We've been using the same program all the way through, and it's just, I don't know, spelling. I'm talking about with my 8-year-old. Spelling is just a struggle. Struggle. Spelling is hard for anyone, even in regular school. See, what's killing me is that I swear when I taught first grade for so many years, my first graders could spell better than my own children are spelling now in the first grade. But you know how we're always like harder on our own kids? Your expectations are higher for your own kids. That might be what's really happening with me, where I just expect more from my own children. Evan Moore spelling, that I just did a homeschool evaluation for somebody that was using that, and they really liked it. Yes, Whitney, I would recommend that. I would like using an online program like Mia Academy, for example. It's not too overwhelming. You might get the feeling like it's not enough, but like you said, you're just starting out and you're going to have the tutor going at the same time. I think that would be just fine. And then like, especially if they're enjoying Mia Academy, then that's kind of like the highlight of the day, right? Get the fun stuff done and then go work with the tutor or whatever you end up choosing. What is that? Homeschool curriculum Q&A asking about Mia Academy. All right. IXL. Yes, Megan. So diagnostic test. So when the IXL program is like an app where your kid goes on and does like lessons each day. Well, before you even start lessons, it will give your kid a diagnostic test, and you can choose to take that diagnostic test as often as you want, 3 times a year, 5 times a year, every week, and it will tell you exactly what grade level your child is performing at. And by the way, when you get the results for the IXL diagnostic test, let's say you've got a 4th grade student and they scored a 318 on their IXL diagnostic test, and everybody's like, what does that mean, 318? The 3 is for 3rd grade. That means your 4th grader scored on a 3rd grade level for math. So, and I'm sure there's a key on there where it tells you exactly what the scores mean, but just keep that in mind. So Whitney, if you're looking for a specific placement test, like where you place them to see what level they should be on a specific curriculum, that would be through the curriculum's website. Like Christian Light, you would Google Christian Light Education Placement Test. Horizons, if you wanted Horizons, you would Google Horizons Placement Test. Almost every single curriculum has a placement test. If it doesn't have a placement test, I'd be a little like concerned, right? Because then you're basically just spending your money on a grade level and you're not even 100% sure if that's the grade level your kid should be in. So I don't like when curriculums don't have a placement test. Mia does not have one, but in Mia's defense, a lot of online, like Time for Learning, it's the same thing. You're just going to put your kid in the grade level that you think they're in. Same thing with CTC Math Online. There's no placement test yet. They have diagnostic tests, but there's not like a full placement test. So in Mia's defense, I think a lot of online programs are lacking with the placement test. And that's probably because, let's say you start Time for Learning or whatever online program, you put your kid in the 3rd grade and then they're struggling, you can just go into your parent portal and back them up to the 2nd grade or the kindergarten. With a physical curriculum, when you buy the physical curriculum, you're stuck with that, right? You can't just go in and change your grade level. So that's why I think physical curriculum companies have the placement tests, whereas a lot of online companies do not. This heater is not working. I'm so cold. Go off what they can read and comprehend. Do I still use Mia Academy? We only use it for like a supplement, right? Like sign language. My kid likes to go on and do the little social things that they have on there, but we're not using it for the full curriculum anymore. Oh yeah, Lindsay, tag me in the comment, messaging me on here. It depends. Like sometimes it gets through to me, sometimes it doesn't. Do I buy my Christian Light new? I have bought it new, but that's because I know I'm going to be using it for 4 kids, like year after year after year. But there's a Christian Light Education Families Facebook group that I love. Sometimes you'll see parents posting their used curriculum in there. eBay is I know everybody forgets about eBay because Amazon is like everything now. eBay has a lot of things on there as well. And, excuse me, the teacher's guides for Christian Light Education are always the same. Like they have not changed in a long time. But what has changed are the light unit covers. So if you go to order Christian Light Education, which this is educational purposes only. I am not selling anything. I don't make commission. I have to keep saying that. Anyways, if you go purchase this program right now, Learning to Read, it's not going to look like this. The cover is different. They've updated the covers, but the information on the inside is exactly the same. So I know I'm holding up the older version. The inside is all the same. They just updated the covers. So don't let that throw you off if you're looking for it and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't look like what Jess had. Facebook is so good for finding groups. Every time I become interested in something, whether it's homeschool, jujitsu, whatever, I go on Facebook and I find a group for it. Favorite curriculum for pre-K. So what we're doing for pre-K with my 3-year-old right now, this is the one I'll show you. Horizons Preschool. This is specifically preschool for 3s. And it's cute. It's like, you know, matching, coloring, circling, that kind of thing. Very, very age appropriate. Or if you have like a 4-year-old, but they're kind of advanced, I know this says kindergarten on it, but this we started with my 4-year-old and she got through it. It was more preschool level in the beginning. And that is Christian Light, the kindergarten that I was just showing you. Okay, I watched your 5 top new curriculums. Yeah, so Lindsay, that is the one, I just was showing the catalog for that one because I discovered them at a homeschool convention. And that video that you're talking about, I came home from that convention and made that video because I was so impressed with all these new curriculum, here it is, that I was learning about. So this one, it's all backwards and in cursive. Moving Beyond the Page, secular, non-religious, very cool concept. Like every grade level has books that come with the program that go along with the lessons for whatever level your kid is in. I thought it was super cool. I stayed at that booth for a really long time. The homeschool house, I'm in it. I'm in it right now. So we got the insulation done. See all the insulation in the walls. And then my husband framed in the bathroom and the closet back there. Something on my head. Anyways, and then so the next thing that we're doing that I'm going to make a video when we go is we're going to go to Lowe's and we're going to get the bead board for the walls. And then we're going to get tongue and groove for the ceiling, which we still have to insulate the ceiling. This whole thing is taken way longer than I was hoping. So Riley, for Bible, this is what we use for Bible, and we don't use it consistently. This is more of like a supplement that I'll do as like a whole family, but this is the Life Pack Bible. Lots of reading. So usually like I can read this with the family and do it like family style, but then my 3rd grader can actually go in and do the worksheets that go along with it. So that's Life Pack Bible. A lot of people ask me about Christian Light Education Bible. We use Christian Light for language arts and math, but I have not used it for Bible or history or anything like that because the Christian Light Education, reading, language arts, they infuse a lot of biblical stuff in there. So we didn't do that separately. Okay, the student and teacher guide separately. So that's important because a lot of people don't realize that you can choose 2 different types of curriculum. Either a type that has the teacher directions or what you say to your child all in one, whereas like this is The Good and the Beautiful. It's just one book. And everything you say to your child and teach them is in here along with the work that they do. So there's no separate teacher's guide. Christian Light and a lot of other curriculums, you have your big old teacher's guide with everything you say to your kid and how to teach them. And then they have their own separate workbooks. I prefer separate. This is just what I'm teaching my child. And that's a lot of information. Look how thick that is. And you're trying to tell me that this, teacher's directions and kids' work, all fitting into that tiny little book. This is why I feel like The Good and the Beautiful just doesn't cut it. Having a separate teacher's guide, it gives you a lot more detail. It gives you a lot more detail on what to say, how to teach. It's not as like short as it was with The Good and the Beautiful. So for me, I like having it separate. And most curriculums are going to have the teacher's guide separate from the student workbook. That's actually why The Good and the Beautiful is very popular because it's one less book that you have to have. I prefer separate, but not sure which curriculum, Horizons or something else. It is totally going to be dependent on your kid, which is hard because you don't want to go buy a bunch of curriculum and then none of them end up working. So you could go based off personality. Like if you do have a hands-on learner, for example, for math, like the one I was talking about earlier, Right Start Math is very, very, very hands-on. Maybe you don't have a hands-on learner. Maybe your kids are like mine, and every time I break out like manipulatives or anything for them to count, they just get pissed off. They like do not want the extra hands-on stuff. Every kid is different, so based on your kid's personality, that might help you determine what curriculum is good for them. For me, I didn't know my kids' learning style. I literally did not know. Like, are they hands-on learner? Are they visual? Are they auditory? Because we started from the very beginning, so you kind of learn as you go, which has been really cool. Like, I know 100% my oldest daughter is an auditory learner. Like, she likes to do her spelling tests verbally. She does not, when she starts writing down her spelling words, she gets all jumbled up. She starts second guessing herself, but verbally, she can rattle them off. My middle daughter is kinesthetic learner, hands-on, needs to be up, moving and grooving every time we do our learning. So every kid is different, and you might not even know your kid's learning style for a whole year, maybe even more. Lindsay, to start, do you just pick one program for everything? That's what we did. Honestly, it was easier for me as a brand new homeschooling parent to just find a program that had all of the subjects. So this is what we call all-in-one curriculum. So if you Google, or I have videos on my page of this, I think I have a video that says all-in-one curriculum versus a la carte. If you search into TikTok, all-in-one curriculum versus a la carte, A-L-A-C-A-R-T-E, I have a video explaining the differences. Starting out, it can be a lot less overwhelming if you get like a big box curriculum. Like a Becca, for example, all the subjects, it gets all delivered to your house, everything's right there in front of you, instead of trying to piece it together with different curriculums. And then like for us, the first year, we just bought all in one. We went all in on the good and the beautiful. Good and the beautiful for every subject. And then as I grew in our homeschool journey, now I feel confident enough to where I'm starting to see the pros and cons of different programs, and I'm feeling more confident with picking and choosing for different subjects, which is why we only do Christian Light Education for language arts and math. I feel like those are the two subjects that Christian Light is the strongest in. And then 5 in a row is amazing for the literature and the reading and the extras. So that's what we're doing. But it took me like 3 years to get to that point where I could pick and choose and not feel like I needed something that had that all-in-one big box feel. Will it throw her reading off? Lawson, I must have missed what you meant. So Horizons would be the best option for hands-on. Okay, Horizons honestly is really not that hands-on. It's colorful and it's cute if they need that visual. The one that I was talking about for hands-on math learners, that is called Right Start. Right Start Math. And when you look up videos of this curriculum, you'll see very hands-on. Manipulatives, balancing, all the things that come with it. As far as hands-on for reading and language arts, there is one called Logic of English. I have not personally used it, but it has a lot of things that your child can touch and move around. Oh, and if you can afford it, there is a company called Blackbird and Co. Like, that's it. It's Blackbird and Co. They are a Montessori-based homeschool curriculum, and everything is hands-on. Like, let's say your child's learning the letter B that day. It'll have a box of, like, a little ball, a little bat, a little, I don't know, bicycle, like anything that starts with the letter B, and they're picking these objects up and they're feeling them and they're touching them, and it is so cool. But because so many things come with it, very expensive. But that one is called Blackbird and Co. I think it goes to 5th grade. I think it's younger ages. I could be, maybe they do have a middle school. I don't know, look it up. Blackbird and Co. If you can afford it, very hands-on, Montessori-based homeschool curriculum that I found at a homeschool convention that, like, I always forget to bring that one up. Somebody said, I'm going to scroll up. I'm missing all these comments. So Samantha, I have not personally tried the Christian Light Education textbooks. From what I've been told, the textbooks are used for like actual private schools, like private schools that use Christian Light Education in their school. They will use the textbooks. I've only used the light units. So individual light units, there are pros and cons to this, right? Because I have to store a lot of these books, right? We're using Christian Light with 4 kids in 2 different subjects, individual light units. The textbook is convenient because everything is just all in one, but then your kid is going to have to write on a separate sheet of paper for their work. So kind of depends on, like, do you want to store a bunch of light units? Also, my kids like graduating up to the next light unit. So like this one, this is the learning to read, but their math, Once she finishes this light unit of math, we are moving on. She gets her new book. Instead of working out of the same textbook all year long, they kind of get bored of doing that. Pulling halfway through the year, should I do a full year's worth program? Okay, so that is a tricky aspect of pulling your kid out in the middle of the year. So let's say you've got a third grader and you pull them out in January, okay, and you start homeschooling and you think like, okay, do I start at the beginning of third grade again? Do I start them in the middle of the third grade? This is where a placement test or a diagnostic test is really going to help you. So again, IXL, those 3 letters, IXL, you can go and take their diagnostic test. Like let's say you pull your kid out in January. As soon as you pull them out, put them on IXL, have them take that diagnostic test, and it might tell you your kid's on 2nd grade level for reading and math. Well, then you're going to go and you're going to pick a curriculum, but you're going to want to focus on 2nd grade. And I know it's a bummer because you're like, oh my gosh, like my kid should be in 3rd grade. Why are they doing 2nd grade work? But it's always better to go back and fill in the gaps. You hear me say that a million times, fill in the gaps, instead of just pushing them forward. They're just going to fall further and further behind. Now, the opposite might be true. You might pull your kid out of 3rd grade and they take that diagnostic test and they're scoring in like a 5th grade level for reading, right? Be careful with that though, because if you go and you purchase a 5th grade level curriculum, but that curriculum is an advanced curriculum, your kid might struggle. So that's why it's important to also see if the curriculum you're interested in has a specific placement test for that curriculum. That will tell you if your kid is on the 3rd grade level or not. Okay, so reading comprehension and vocabulary, the way that we do it with the Christian Light Education reading and language arts, that's all included in one. But like Abeka, for example, when we used Abeka, had it separated. So like you had a vocabulary book, you had a spelling book, you had language arts, and that was cool too. It kind of depends like if you want it all in one or not. But I like the Abeka phonics. Abeka phonics and spelling is like so good. Yes, Tiffany, what if my son is supposed to be in 5th, but we're 2 years behind and he's on a 3rd grade level? Very typical, especially kids who are sitting in the classroom right now. Like this is not a homeschool thing, right? This is happening across the board. You're going to go back to where they're performing at. So I know it's frustrating. Like my 5th grader is working on a 3rd grade level. You feel like you want to speed up, but go back, take it slow. You might even need to back up a whole nother grade level, right? You might need to go back to 2nd grade, 1st grade, whatever you have to do to get those foundational skills in check. And then as the years go on, you can catch up, right? Double up on lessons each day or whatever once your kid gets more confident. But going back as far as you need. Maybe your 8th grader needs to go back to 1st grade for math. That is a very strong possibility with what's going on in the school system right now. You just do it. That is what is best for your kid. They're going to be annoyed. I know it's frustrating for you, but please, 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 they will be thanking you later. Just came in. What curriculum would you suggest for history and science? So for us, with the history and the science and the social studies and what like the extras, we're covering all that right now with our 5 in a row workbooks. So I have a playlist on my page where I go in depth about what this is exactly, especially at that age when they're young like that. Don't overwhelm them with like, okay, we have science and then social studies and then history and then math and then science. Like you can combine a lot of stuff. With my kindergartner, we are just working on math and reading. Those are our core subjects. And then everything else, the science, the social studies, that's all part of this, right? So I'm not trying to add too much, especially when they're young. Thanks. He's really supposed to be in 6th, but I pulled him out and he's 4th. Yeah, Tiffany, I know. Please, you guys, go to nationsreportcard.gov. Okay, nationsreportcard.gov. Click on your state. You can see the literacy rates and the test scores for your state at the end of last year. And you'll see it's like 20% of 4th graders are reading on grade level. Like every state has their own statistics, but they're all terrible. It'll make you feel better. Excuse me. So if your kiddo is in the 6th grade, working on a 4th grade level, don't let that bother you. Nationsreportcard.gov, you will clearly see that this is a issue on a country level. It's not a homeschool problem. It's not a grade level problem. That's why the statistics are all showing that homeschoolers are scoring higher on standardized testing. Because, you know, when you've got 20% of fourth graders reading on grade level on their state tests, of course the homeschool scores are going to look good. It kind of seems like they're inflated, but that's because parents are pulling their kids out before their literacy drops to that low of a level that you're seeing on that nationsreportcard.gov. I know I have videos on that too, where I'm going through that website and showing you each state and how terrible their scores are. And I know test scores are not everything, right? Kids have bad days or whatever, but 20% of the fourth grade, and that's just one example. Nationsreportcard.gov. It's a government website. This is not like a, you know, disgruntled teacher came on and just made this website up. It is a government website, nationsreportcard.gov. And you can click on your state and you can see their literacy rates. I did this where I went back a few grades to get the foundations solid. She had a hard time reading. Exactly, Brittany. Like, if your child is struggling with reading, that's such a broad statement, right? Like, my kid's struggling with reading. It's like, okay, hold on. Is it the phonics? Is it the comprehension? Is it their letter sounds? Is it their blending? There's like so many little things it can be. So just backing up to the beginning, like literally there's 26 letters in the alphabet. Does your child know every sound that those 26 letters make? Yes, they do. Okay, let's move on to digraphs. SH, TH, WH, PH. Do they know what TH says? CH, right? That you'll start to see where the gap started. It's usually around the first grade. Isn't that so sad? Like kindergarten, they know their letter sounds, everything's great, and then they get into the first grade and they start blending. And even just missing a couple of days of school because your kid is sick, and then they come back to public school and we've already moved, you know, we've already learned the digraphs that week. Now your kid's trying to catch up. That's all it takes for them to fall behind. Isn't that crazy? That's what's cool about homeschooling too, is like my kids were sick. They're still sick. We cannot get rid of this sickness. And we just take days off as we need. And when they're feeling better and we're ready to get back into it, we just go where we left off. It's not like they're having to do makeup work or anything like that. Yes. Can IEP kids homeschool? Yes. So we were talking about this earlier where when your child has an IEP, the point of that IEP in the school system, it's a legal binding document that requires your child's providers at the time, teachers, to adhere to those accommodations, right? Little Jimmy needs extra time on his test. He needs to be allowed to take frequent breaks. He needs to be able to stand when he's taking his test, whatever he needs. That's what that IEP says. When you homeschool, you are the IEP. Like, you don't need a document to tell you that little Johnny needs extra time on his test. You're just going to automatically give him that extra time. However, the fear here is that if you just let your kid's IEP expire, you pull them out of school, you let the IEP expire, and then they have to go back to school in a couple years, financial reasons, whatever, they're going to have to collect all of the data again and start back from square one to get that IEP going. So some homeschooling families will keep the IEP active. You attend your annual meetings, you do your every 3 years reeval, and you can keep it that way. Most homeschooling families that I work with just let the IEP expire. They know they're going to homeschool all the way through to high school, and they don't have to worry about going back and updating it. Totally depends on your situation, your child, but just know that data collection that happens when the IEP process starts is going to have to happen all over again, unless the IEP has not expired, because remember, they're good for a year. I'm still figuring out gaps. Yes, and you're on your second year. Yep, I'm still figuring out the gaps, and my kids have never been in public school. But there's just, you know, some things they catch on too quickly. Some things it takes a little while. Like telling time is a gap that took a whole year for us to fill in, and she finally is doing very well with it. My niece is homeschooled, but we live in Bolivia. We need grades for the Ministry of Education. So I don't know much about that. If that is a law for Bolivia specifically, I don't know. But if your niece, if you are a, Depends. Like if you were living in the United States and you were adhering to homeschool laws for the specific state you were in and then moved to Bolivia, but you're still a resident of that state, like it hasn't been officially transferred over, you would still need to follow your state residency homeschool laws. This is my first year homeschooling and I work from home full time trying to give myself grace. Yeah, I understand completely. The good thing is it doesn't take as long per day. It's not like you need 6 years or 6 hours of school per day. You know, they can get it done in 3 or depending, but when you're working full time, it's so hard. Oh, she's going to an American virtual school. Okay, so in that case, you should easily be able to, if it's an online program, there should be records either being emailed or in the parent portal, depending on what online program she's using, that will provide grades for you. And if it's not necessarily a report card, like Time for Learning, for example, they don't give you a report card, but you know, you can see that they got hundreds and 90s and 80s on their tests. You can add up all those averages and create your own report card. That would be one option. Oh, her curriculum is lacking, so I would want to see if this is possible. Yes. What is the best way to learn how to spell? So Tiffany, with the spelling, it always is going to go back to phonics. So struggling with spelling is a direct reflection of some deficit in phonics, meaning letter sounds, letter blends. Like if I know that C says k, A says a, T says t, and I blend that together to get the word cat, but when I go to write the word cat, I write C-O-T, that tells me we're getting our vowels mixed up, right? A is a, O is ah. You just wrote the word cot when you're trying to write the word cat. So that is, okay, we need to go back and we need to work on those vowel sounds. A lot of kids where they get tripped up is the digraphs, like I was saying earlier, the CH sound, the TH sound, SH sound, because obviously they know S says S and H says H. And when you put them together, you're not saying S, H, you're getting a whole new sound. And so usually that is where the gap starts. But every child is different. So if they're struggling with the spelling, figure out, like I said, are they missing the vowels? Is it the consonants? Is it just a lack of understanding of even syllables, right? So if I say table, and you only wrote TL, you're missing most of the sounds in that first syllable. Table. What curriculum are you using for history? So I'm only using our 5 in a row kind of Charlotte Mason literature based to cover history. It's not a specific history curriculum. I'm just kind of infusing it. Like I was showing earlier, we did the Thanksgiving book that went along with this program. And then we talked about the history of Thanksgiving and we did Thanksgiving projects and stuff to go along with that. So I'm kind of just like infusing history with it. No, I have not tried to make my own curriculum, but I like dream of making my own curriculum one day. Like making a legit curriculum to sell one day. But parents do that. Like honestly, you could use ChatGPT and be like, hey, I need 16 weeks of worksheets for 4th grade math that adhere to the Idaho state standards for 4th grade, right? Just look it over because ChatGPT, there are a lot of mistakes that go with that. Yeah, a lot of typos and stuff, but you can go in and fix it. Yes, Christian Light is very good. Yes. What do you think? So middle school and high school online, I'm already thinking about that. Time for Learning, I already used it and liked it, but they're not accredited. It's not an accredited program, meaning I will still have to do my diploma and transcripts. Acellus Academy, I have not tried it, but because they're accredited, they'll do the diploma and the transcripts for me, so that's appealing to me. Those are really the only 2 that I'm considering right now. We tried Mia Academy, it was okay. Monarch, okay, but right now, Time for Learning and Acellus are the 2 that I'm thinking about. Or if we could afford Abeka is a lot of work though. Yes, Tony, do you recommend testing at all throughout kindergarten? So for us, we did the MAP test, that's Measures of Academic Progress, MAP, MAP test at the beginning of kindergarten, the middle of kindergarten, and the end of kindergarten, and it showed exactly her growth. That's why they call it the growth test. But I will admit that now we're in the 3rd grade, and I'm only doing testing once a year. But I do recommend doing it in kindergarten because you're getting a good baseline, right? So if you've got a kindergartner, just do the state test, even if you just do it once, get that baseline, so then when you take the test year after year, you can see where they started and how much they've grown. Yes, junior high school uses a, see, I don't think the rest of that comment came through. Oh, uses a Celis and really likes it. From what I looked into it, it looked really good. And then I made a video about it, and it was like the comments were very mixed. It was either people really loved it or really hated it. That's kind of all curriculum though, right? Like it's like just, it's based on your child, and everybody's child is different. But that's probably the one that I just like that it's an accredited option. And you can still go at your own pace, where you're not having to like submit work by a certain, week deadline. Yeah, see, my kids hated Acela. That's what I'm saying. It totally depends on the kid. We are in North Carolina now, yes. But all my Florida people that need homeschool evaluations, I'm keeping my Florida certification active, and we're just doing all our meetings through Zoom. We ended 3rd grade a few months ago and haven't done the test yet. If you're just doing it for your own knowledge, you can take the test at any time. If your state requires you to submit test scores, it's typically around June and July that they want the test scores submitted for the previous school year, but also depends on the state. This is my first year homeschooling, and I'm worried that Abeka will be too much work for my 3rd grader. So Abeka is very intense. It's great, but it is very intense, and the workload, if you're doing the unaccredited route where you're not having to submit your work by a certain deadline, you can be flexible with it. Like when we were doing Abeka, we just kind of skipped the spelling every day because the phonics was so heavy on spelling. I was like, I'm not going to double up here. But if we were doing the accredited program with Abeka, you would need to do every single piece of work that it assigns. But if your kid is like very self-motivated and they're a little bit like maybe type A, they could really thrive with Abeka. Okay, Tony, yes, go ahead and send me an email. We can get you scheduled for your evaluation. One thing I will say about Abeka, I did not personally experience this, but there's like a lot of controversy around like in the older grades in high school, some of the science topics. Like it's not, I don't know, you gotta look it up. There's controversy with Abeka in the older grades. I liked it for the 1st grade. That's the problem. Abeka accredited is too much. I hear that from a lot of people. When we were doing Abeka, they gave me the choice. I won a full year of Abeka curriculum at this convention, and it asked me, do you want the accredited route or the unaccredited? And I was like, oh, accredited would be kind of cool. Like it feels official. Thank God we did not though, because even the unaccredited, it is a lot of work. A lot of materials that come with each grade level too. But the cool thing about Abeka is it's all in one. Like if your kid's in the 3rd grade, you can go online and you can just order 3rd grade. It's like $2,000, but you do get every subject, every book, every worksheet, every test, everything's included. I do some subjects, but with the umbrellas. Yeah, so umbrella schools, that's another thing if your state has that option, Florida does, where you're homeschooling and you're doing your own thing, but you have this, they call it an umbrella school because it kind of like is overarching over your homeschool. A lot of times it's just the school putting their name on you. Like, okay, this is Jessica Ellis. She's homeschooling her children under blah, blah, blah academy school. It's like the umbrella school is like taking the responsibility by putting their name on my homeschool, but they're not doing anything for us. We're doing our own homeschool. So umbrella schools are a cool option too, because they'll provide you the diploma at the end of the year, at the end of the 12 years. You're the best. Oh, thank you. I'm so cold. I literally have my hands in my pockets because I'm so cold right now. Okay, I'm going to log off. If you're not following me, make sure you're following me. I'm going to try to start scheduling these lives for Tuesdays. This is like our non-jujitsu day that I actually have time. And like I said, everything we talk about, I have a video for. Just search it on TikTok. It'll be on there, YouTube, Instagram, all the things. It all just gets reposted. All my TikTok stuff just gets reposted to all the different socials. And then, like I said, every morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is I try to go through and respond to as many comments as possible. So you're actually easier better off trying to get a hold of me through comments than messaging, because TikTok messaging just kind of like gets lost. Or email. My email is all over there. All right, so I will see you all hopefully next Tuesday. I'm gonna put the little schedule thing out so you'll get a notification for my next live. But like I said, I'm gonna really try to be consistent with Tuesdays. All right, goodbye, guys.